My Marvel superhero girlfriend, welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 76, Overly Passionate Battle. Inside the school office, Black Widow wielded a custom-made gun, while Leopard's eyes gleamed, their beautiful confrontation. Nian sat on a chair, between them, but outside the fray, against a back wall. Like a world-famous painting. Horizontal ellipsis. Facing the threat of the pitch-black muzzle, Leopard had stood motionless, then suddenly leaned forward and crouched, bursting forward with explosive acceleration. Black Widow's eyes narrowed, her grip on the pistol steady, and with swift reaction, she pulled the trigger. Bang! 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 3 consecutive shots, even with the silencer on. Leopard's eyes flickered like green flames, and she stomped the ground with powerful force on her raised toes. Her nimble body moved in a swift Z-shaped pattern, like a beautiful, human-shaped leopard, dodging 3 close-range shots within the room. The bullets landed on the ground beside her, sparks flying and leaving deep craters. Watching Cheetah approaching with a gust of wind, Black Widow aimed between her eyebrows and squeezed the trigger, then abandoned her pistol and swung her fist forward. Cheetah seemed to sense something and ducked, barely avoiding the bullet that pierced through her curly hair. At the same time, she swung her right hand forward. Crack! Black Widow's uniquely shaped hand weapon, the Widow's Sting, collided with Cheetah's own claw-like nails, swiftly and powerfully. With a swish, Black Widow's pupils shrank. Her bracelet weapon, the Widow's Sting, invented by Soviet scientists and technicians and modified by SHIELD, was slashed by the opponent's claw-like nails, leaving deep cracks on its surface. The cracks were so deep that they even touched the skin of her glove. Cheetah's carelessness also led to a significant loss. From Black Widow's ruptured Widow's Sting, a surge of electricity, tens of thousands of volts, surged rapidly up her claws, shocking her entire body. The shock was enough to easily knock out an average adult man. Cheetah grunted in pain, her movements suddenly uncoordinated, causing her other hand, which had been secretly clawing at Black Widow's chest, to lose strength. Her claws only ripped through the black, custom-made leather agent jacket, revealing a pair of erect, purple-clad figures. Black Widow paid no heed, her knee swiftly rising, clearly aiming for the opponent's abdomen. Cheetah twisted her body to avoid the attack, lightly leaping past Black Widow. She was in midair. Feeling her tight sweater hinder her movement, Cheetah's claw-like hands clawed at her own sweater, tearing the entire brown winter sweater in two, revealing a graceful, mature figure. This battle was truly brutal and captivating. But Nian had no intention of noticing it. At this moment, an unprecedented transformation was unfolding within him. Already possessing Gwen's super spider-like physique, and having just achieved close contact and exchange with Cheetah, Nian's body now possessed a second ability, Cheetah's. Cheetah's ability was unique. It wasn't an innate gene, nor an acquired mutation, but a gift bestowed by the old gods, a curse that came with a price. Spider powers were inherently the predatory abilities of arthropods, while Cheetah's abilities were also those of mammals. Now, within Nian's universally compatible physique, these two distinct predatory abilities overlapped, merged, and intensified. This magical scene, naturally unnoticed by Cheetah and Black Widow, caught up in the passionate battle, passed each other and faced each other again. Cheetah suddenly sneered, "Don't you want to eat too?" "What did you say?" Black Widow retorted, feigning ignorance. "How about joining us?" "I don't mind," Catwoman continued to coax her, licking her dark lips. Black Widow couldn't help but wonder. She hadn't thought about it originally, but when Catwoman suddenly said that, she felt a flicker of excitement. Was there something wrong with her? And then, Catwoman's eyes suddenly sharpened. Her once smooth, white, bare body suddenly became covered with a layer of leopard fur. A leopard tail mysteriously twitched and emerged from behind her. Her palms transformed into truly ferocious leopard claws, and her ears became pointed and slender, almost leopard-like. A humanoid female leopard, this was Catwoman's true fighting form. Catwoman's fully powered body moved, her speed 2 or 3 times faster than before. Black Widow was startled, watching the afterimage of Catwoman before her. She only had time to raise her arms and cross them across her chest to block. Swish. A spray of warm, scarlet blood. The specially tailored spy leather jacket ripped open easily, revealing 5 horrifying scratches on Black Widow's reinforced torso and arms. Under the powerful force of Cheetah's blow, her back slammed into the empty window, sending her flying from the 4th floor window. You're worthy enough to share my prey. Shaking off the bloodstain from her claws, Cheetah's eyes gleamed with ferocity. Little friend, no one's disturbing us. Let's have some fun now. Cheetah turned to the wall and found Nian sitting on a chair, his head lowered between his legs. Are you frightened? Cheetah took a few steps forward with a cat-like gait. Her curves reached her thighs, revealing the beauty of her muscular build. Her muscles tensed and relaxed as she moved, effortlessly controlling the power of her limbs. Cheetah's naked, panther-like form possessed a primal, unique beauty. When she was about 3 meters from Nian, the leopard woman's narrow, animal eyes narrowed slightly. She noticed that on Nian's left arm, hidden by his sleeve, golden beams intertwined and radiated, like a blazing holy flame. Diana actually gave you all this. The leopard woman immediately recognized the guardian silver bracelet. Surprised, she sneered nonchalantly, what a shame. I might have been a little intimidated by Diana coming here in person, but her silver bracelet, a single weapon at that, wouldn't pose much of a threat to me. Nian remained silent. The leopard woman had clearly misjudged her. It wasn't Nian drawing on the power of the divine guardian silver bracelet, but rather the bracelet itself, awakening and activating, helping Nian suppress the terrifying savagery within him. Seeing no reaction from Nian, the leopard woman instinctively reached out, but before she could touch him, she pulled back, feeling burned. Her fur bristled for no apparent reason. What was this inexplicable palpitation? Leopard woman didn't have time to think. With a powerful vibration of the building crashing into it, the ceiling of the office behind leopard woman suddenly broke open. Amidst a dazzling daylight, a tall, beautiful figure descended from the sky. Before landing, a golden rope snaked like a firefly, tightly wrapping around leopard woman's waist several times. Looking down at the familiar news and the familiar sense of restraint implanted in her genes, leopard woman was stunned for a moment, then gritted her teeth and finally uttered, "You're here after all." Chapter 77 Hunter's Nian is online. Buzz, 2 golden, brilliant divine flames suddenly shone in different locations within the room, their rays intertwining and merging, seemingly merging into one. The protective silver bracelet Nian concealed beneath his left sleeve echoed in the distance with the identical item worn on the slender wrist of the tall, beautiful figure who had intruded into the office. Between them stood Barbara, the leopard woman. Before she could turn, she gazed at the lasso bound around her waist. Her enchanting face suddenly darkened, and she cried out in uncontrollable anger, "Diana!" And Nian glanced up in surprise. The figure descending from the sky behind leopard woman was none other than Aunt Diana. At this moment, Diana, clad in Wonder Woman's signature superhero suit, her exquisitely beautiful face a stern yet composed expression. Her sword-like brows raised with heroic grace, her hand tightly clutching the shimmering golden lasso of truth. She was both beautiful and elegant, yet radiantly reassuring. Nian was already quite old, but seeing Aunt Diana show up to save him, he suddenly wanted to hug her. "Leave this to me." "You should leave first." Diana, sensing the artifact's properties, knew Nian wasn't feeling well, so she spoke softly. "Okay." Nian nodded quickly, ignoring the leopard woman before him, and immediately stood up from his chair and headed for the office door. He knew that Aunt Diana was more than capable of handling leopard woman, and that staying would only be a hindrance and might even reveal the secret of the master's abilities. Diana must have considered this, too. Over the years, Nian and Diana had developed a close rapport. After revealing their identities and secret abilities, their mutual trust and confidence had reached a new level. "Don't even think about leaving." Leopard woman noticed that Diana and Nian had been ignoring her the entire time, not saying a word to her. Unsure of who to blame, she suddenly lunged at Nian as he was about to leave the office like a female leopard. Facing the sharp wind behind him and the chilling sensation of claws through the air, Nian paid no attention. As leopard woman approached Nian about a meter behind her, the lasso around her waist suddenly tightened. Wonder Woman yanked back on the lasso of truth, pulling her back like a warrior taming a wild horse. Leopard woman's feet plowed the floor, leaving 2 distinct animal footprints. "Damn it!" Leopard woman clawed at the air helplessly and furiously. She could only stare at Nian, who didn't even turn around, as she opened the office door and walked out. Knowing Wonder Woman was there, she knew she couldn't pull it off. The anger on Cheetah's face quickly faded to indifference. She turned back to look at Wonder Woman, a sudden, seductive smile breaking through her. "I didn't expect you could resist eating him." Wonder Woman, as dignified and elegant as ever, her expression unwavering. "He's just my child." "Really? I don't believe it." Cheetah growled, her body leaving a shadow as she turned and violently pounced on Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman clutched the lasso of truth in one hand, and with the other, she swiftly plucked a dark golden shield from her back. She thrust it forward with a powerful strike, blocking the leopard's claws with a shield. Sparks flew everywhere. Cheetah had intended to bypass the shield and strike Wonder Woman directly, but in the next instant, Diana's starlight crown adorned her forehead, sending her flying backwards. Cheetah looked up in pain, only to meet a pair of calm, yet heart-pounding eyes. "Barbara, it's all right if you want to hurt me. But you shouldn't have attacked him." At this moment, Earth's only demigod displayed unprecedented rage. Nian left the office building and headed straight for the teaching building. Compared to Diana's seemingly undetermined situation, he was more worried about Gwen's uncertain future. Nian's pace grew faster and faster, his strides whistling like a lightning bolt. He felt his current state was truly miraculous. He possessed nearly endless energy and vitality, able to control his limbs and muscles at will, effortlessly commanding and releasing every ounce of his strength. Possessing both the super spider and the cheetah abilities, Nian's physical strength was now exceptionally formidable. Thanks to the divine power of the protective silver bracelet suppressing his bestial nature, his overall body showed no signs of leopard transformation, appearing no different from his normal human form. He quickly entered through the teaching building's entrance. With a sharp, swift glance, Nian saw the building was deserted. The hallways, floors, walls, and even ceilings bore the heavy damage of inhuman force. Books and papers lay scattered across the floor. He glanced at the security room on the first floor and saw that the school guard had disappeared. The mainframe computers inside were shattered, as if crushed by a giant hand. This in turn gave Nian a sigh of relief. After all, the surveillance footage had captured not only the doctor's secrets, but also his and Gwen's. There are signs of a struggle at the scene. It was Gwen and Dr. Lizard. Nian's eyes scanned the scene, his mind swiftly analyzing the scene. But where were the people now? Nian frowned, listening intently. Not a single sound emanated from the entire building. After the teachers and students evacuated, Spider-Man and Dr. Lizard, who were fighting in the teaching building, also disappeared mysteriously. Nian suddenly remembered something and rushed to the class locker. He skillfully took out a key from his trouser pocket and opened Gwen's locker. A school bag was quietly lying in the small locker. He took out the school bag and opened the zipper. Nian was suddenly stunned. What was placed in the school bag was another set of spider-hooded uniforms, the same style as Gwen wore as Spider-Man, the same black and white background, but with spider mesh patterns all over the body. It looked tougher and more masculine. The size of the spider suit was obviously much larger, and it was clearly prepared for men. There was a white spider pattern printed on the front of the top. Tucked into his shirt was a small, heart-shaped card with a beautifully written English message from Gwen, to Nian Prince. When was it made? Nian's heart warmed. He continued to rummage through his school bag and found a small, white vest. Without hesitation, Nian picked up the white vest, held it to his nose, and sniffed deeply. Well, let me be clear, he's not a pervert. Nian closed his eyes, and a faint fragrance seemed to surge from his nose into his brain, the intense stimulation making his blood boil with excitement. As if igniting the most primitive and wild hunting instinct, thousands of mixed smells filled the teaching building, like colorful paints of varying shades quietly flowing. 3 seconds later. Found you, Gwen, Nian muttered to himself, locking onto a familiar scent as his target. Chapter 78 Underground, Animal Wars. On the first floor of the teaching building, in the archives room, a massive hole lay in the tiled floor, right in the middle of the room. It looked as if it had been dug recently, with a radius of a meter, and a large amount of rubble and soil had been turned up around it. Donning the hooded spider suit Gwen had given him, Nian's muscular body revealed streamlined curves. He crouched slightly at the edge of the hole, peering down into the bottomless, mysterious depths. Holding his breath, Nian leaped directly into the hole. Falling, falling, a continuous free fall. He plummeted about 20 or 30 meters before hitting the ground. Above the faintly shimmering ground, about half a meter in the air, several thin, barely discernible white threads intertwined. They were Gwen's spider silk. With a sudden thought, Nian placed his hands on either side of the hole to cushion his fall, landing effortlessly on the resilient silk Gwen had set up. With a faint green glint in his eyes, Nian crouched on several spider silk threads, surveying the darkness. He discovered that the pit led to an underground sewer. The space within was narrow, dark, and suffocating. Without giving it much thought, Nian quickly followed the threads that stretched endlessly toward a subterranean passage. Sometimes he crawled like a spider, sometimes he ran like a cheetah at the bottom of the pipe. The underground sewer was designed to twist and turn, branching, and in the darkness underground, it was even more difficult to sense the direction. Nian was not afraid of getting lost. Firstly, he had the spider silk left by Gwen to guide him, and secondly, he had also trapped Gwen's scent. However, the further he followed Gwen's path, the more Nian frowned. This underground pipe was like another world, with its intricate network of passages, a hidden area that could never be reached by sunlight. What kind of evil could breed in such a subterranean place? Nian swiftly traversed the underground sewers for 2 or 3 kilometers. Just as he suspected he was no longer in the same city as his original school, he caught a whiff of blood. It was Gwen. She was injured. Realizing this, Nian's eyes suddenly grew cold, and the divine light from his protective silver bracelet shone brightly, barely suppressing the ferocity within him. Trample. Nian's palms and feet simultaneously landed on the slope of the underground sewers, sprinting across the 90-degree angle, his already swift speed reaching a new level. The airflow generated by his high-speed movement sent the water beneath the sewers splattering backwards. Nian quickly spotted a 2 to 3 meter tall humanoid lizard monster, facing a slender figure several meters away, at the wide intersection of the underground sewers ahead. Spider-Woman's left calf was scratched, making movement difficult, and she leaned against the side of the sewer wall. With her highly similar spider sense, Spider-Woman glanced sideways, seemingly sensing something, at Nian approaching from a nearby pipe. Meanwhile, a ferocious-looking humanoid lizard monster, like a small dinosaur, seized the opportunity to pounce on Spider-Woman. But a figure was clearly faster. Get out of the way. Nian, like a human cannonball, violently slammed into the humanoid lizard monster, sending it flying. Watch out. Seeing this, Spider-Woman instead shouted a warning. Huh? Nian's eyes narrowed slightly. In the air above the intersection of pipes, he twisted his waist almost instinctively, spinning his slender body at high speed. Swish. Swish. A sudden sound of breaking wind echoed underground, and 2 mechanical claws, like octopus tentacles, darted past and plunged into the water flowing in the pipe below Nian, stirring up a wave of water. Spinning to avoid the mechanical tentacles' attack, Nian spotted, in a corner of the underground tunnel's rooftop, a middle-aged man wearing sunglasses, clinging to the wall with 2 mechanical tentacles on his back. Squidward? Whoosh! At that moment, a white spider silk thread accurately struck Nian, who was about to fall into the water. He offered no resistance, allowing the thread's owner to pull him forward. Finally reuniting with Gwen, Nian landed on the tunnel floor, reached out to support the man's slender, flexible form, and quickly asked, "Are you okay?" "It's just a foot injury." "I'm fine," Spider-Woman panted. "Do you know the one with the 4 mechanical claws?" Nian glanced at the middle-aged man and asked Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman whispered, "Have you forgotten? He's Otto Gunther Octavius, a renowned physics PhD from Washington. He visited our school a year ago for an event." "Another PhD?" Nian suddenly remembered. Earlier, Cheetah had mentioned that the doctors at their school were all eccentrics. This one was definitely eccentric. There was Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus. It looked like a zoo, wasn't it? If you added the spiders and cheetahs on their side, it would be a massive animal brawl. With a puff, Dr. Lizard leaped from the rushing water of the sewer, landing on the pipe floor on the other side. His green, animalistic eyes glared coldly at Nian and the others. With a squeak, Dr. Octopus, with 4 mechanical tentacles on his back, clung to the pipe ceiling and quickly landed above the humanoid lizard monster. He said with a hint of dissatisfaction, "You've done a great job, attracting those 2 little spiders." "Stop talking nonsense and take care of them first," Dr. Lizard said hoarsely. "Now that they've seen us and know our secret, There's no way they'll get back up there. Dr. Octopus sneered, as long as that girl doesn't come. Half a year ago, the two doctors began conducting inhumane scientific experiments underground through the school's underground pipes. Just as they were achieving some promising results, a junior female student approached them, claiming she knew of their actions and threatened to report them to the school and the police if they continued. Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus attempted to threaten the girl, but she punched her feet. With just one blow, a massive, bottomless hole remained in the underground pipes. From that day on, Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus were forced to suspend their experiments indefinitely. Until recently, when the students stopped coming to school, they couldn't resist resuming their experiments. And the experiment was undoubtedly a success. The result is their extraordinary appearance today. Dr. Lizard gained the ability to regenerate severed limbs, transforming into a powerful humanoid lizard. Dr. Octopus, on the other hand, merged with his 4 mechanical claws, his brain and the intelligence of his tentacles forming a new nervous system. Chapter 79, Deformed Supernatural, Death Underground. In the narrow, dark sewers, a giant, beast-like Dr. Lizard, a robotic claw Dr. Octopus, and Nian, wearing a matching hooded Spider-Man suit, faced off. Gurgling. Cold wastewater rushed through the central channel. Possessing the abilities of both Super Spider and Cheetah, Nian possessed a keen sense, possessing the uncanny instincts of a beast. He could clearly sense the two doctors before him, filled with evil and murderous intent. They truly intended to kill him and Gwen right here. Had humanity been annihilated? Glancing down at the horrifying scratches on Gwen's left calf, Nian's eyes, gleaming faintly with green, grew even colder. We'll each take one. I'll handle Dr. Lizard, and you handle. Hey. Spider-Woman hadn't finished her words when Nian, standing beside her, suddenly reached out and scooped her up like a princess. Want to escape? Dr. Octopus sneered, looking down at Nian from above. Dr. Lizard's eyes flashed blood red, saliva dripping from his fangs. He resembled a ferocious humanoid dinosaur, his mind on the verge of losing control. Nian ignored them, saying to the ethereal Spider-Woman in his arms, "Hold me tight." Gwen wrapped her arms, clasped in her tight combat sleeves, around Nian's neck. A look of worry crossed her cheeks beneath her spider hood. She whispered, "You can't handle them alone, especially with me. Don't you still have one hand? How do you know if you don't try?" Nian smiled inexplicably, one arm embracing Spider-Woman's body while the other, freed, lifted up. This calm, yet seemingly heartfelt defiance, briefly reminded Dr. Octopus of the girl he'd met 6 months prior. He trembled with rage, and like an octopus, he lunged forward. "You're kidding." Behind him, 4 mechanical claws, gleaming with a cold metallic glow, seemed to possess independent consciousness. Like 4 venomous metal snakes, they swiftly stabbed at Nian. Nian stood still, making no attempt to dodge or flee. While holding Spider-Woman in one hand, his left hand, curved like a feline claw, suddenly moved. Clang 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 clang. 4 nearly overlapping metallic clashes echoed, and the 4 mechanical claws that simultaneously stabbed at Nian were all swatted back by Nian's single left hand. How is that possible? Dr. Octopus' eyes widened in shock. As if enraged, the 4 mechanical claws continued to twist and twist, stabbing furiously forward. A crackling sound suddenly filled the sewer, the murky air pierced by the sharp blades, and the mechanical tentacles transformed into dense silver light, terrifyingly enveloping the area around Nian. At that moment, his dark cyan eyes clearly captured the movements of all the mechanical tentacles. Nian's left hand immediately blocked with even greater swiftness and force, blocking all the high-frequency, independent mechanical claws half a meter away. Ding ding ding. From a third-party perspective, Dr. Octopus's mechanical claws and Nian's left hand were reduced to high-speed afterimages, evenly matched at a 4-to-1 ratio. Clearly, manual movement was faster than mechanical. This was unbelievable. Dr. Octopus's eyes widened beneath his sunglasses, his face filled with disbelief. Could the opponent's left hand also be mechanical? A ruthless iron hand? No. This was more like the hand of a demon. Amazing. Spider-Woman's mouth dropped open slightly. Thanks to Nian's attacks, not a single mechanical claw could reach her body. Why don't you come help? Dr. Octopus continued to attack Nian with his mechanical claws, glancing at Dr. Lizard standing nearby and shouting urgently. Dr. Lizard's beastly eyes blazed crimson as he fixed his gaze on Nian and pounced with unparalleled ferocity. Nian's eyes narrowed, and with Spider-Girl in one hand, he leaped upward, dodging the lizard's razor-sharp claws. While still in the air, he slammed down on the opponent's head with such force that the 2 to 3 meter long lizard like Dr. Octopus was pinned down. Bang! Dr. Octopus's scaly, green body slammed into the ground, leaving a noticeable dent in the cracked ground. Die? At that moment, 4 mechanical claws lunged at Nian, who was standing on Dr. Octopus's body. With incredibly fast reaction speed, Nian and Spider-Girl swiftly and directly stepped onto the side of the underground pipe, continuing their upward stomping steps to the top wall. He easily dodged the 4 mechanical claws' attack and reached out to grab one of them. With a powerful tug, Nian lifted Dr. Octopus's entire body and slammed it down onto Dr. Octopus's body, causing the original dent to open several more cracks. Completed all. Without even a breath, Nian dropped from the top of the upside-down pipe, his body twirling a half-turn in mid-air before landing effortlessly on the ground, clutching Spider-Woman. This was the true power of Super Spider and Cheetah. Nian's body had been fortified by a double layer of physical buffs, his muscles, bones, and cortex far exceeding the toughness of refined metal. More importantly, his strength, reflexes, and bestial instincts had all been qualitatively enhanced. Seeing that Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus were still struggling to rise, Nian raised his left hand, and a white spiderweb instantly enveloped them both. Nian continued to flick his wrist, and strands of white silk entwined themselves, binding them together like a giant dumpling. Did our experiment fail? How could this be? This isn't supposed to be the case. Dr. Octopus's sunglasses fell from his face, his eyes filled with confusion, and he muttered to himself in a panic. The mechanical tentacles on his back, like venomous snakes with their own consciousness, struggled violently, making a chilling squeak. At this moment, Dr. Lizard suddenly opened his bloody maw in a frenzy, his eyes filled with violence and bloodlust, and bit down on Dr. Octopus's neck. Crack! Scarlet blood splattered as Dr. Octopus's unreinforced neck was severed. The mechanical tentacles on his back, however, didn't stop, suddenly tearing through the spider silk binding it. Their thorns pierced Dr. Lizard's body, piercing through the giant lizard's eye sockets, mouth, chest, and lower abdomen. A torrent of corrosive green blood gushed out of his 4 mechanical claws, causing them to hiss with smoke and electricity. The pain caused Dr. Lizard to tighten his grip on Dr. Octopus's body. Watching this sudden scene, Nian and Spider-Man were stunned. It didn't last long. The entangled Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus, along with their 4 mechanical claws, lost consciousness and fell to the ground. 2 different colors of blood flowed quietly, washed away by the turbulent undercurrent of wastewater. In the underground pipes, everything returned to calm. Chapter 80. You cannot see what I see. Watching Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus perish together, Nian and Spider-Woman stood by in silence. Who could have foreseen such an outcome? Dr. Kurt, he's lost control, completely degenerated into a beast. Gwen removed her spider cowl, sighed, and spoke with a touch of sadness. Dr. Otto must have been the same way. The intelligent systems of those mechanical claws behind him stimulated his brain nerves, and his mind has long been controlled by the machines. Nian nodded. Gaining access to supernatural things beyond one's control, leading to a loss of control in humanity and a sense of self-control. He could empathize with this. Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus today are like Nian, the 3-in-1. Nian only stopped beforehand and regained control of his supernatural power, while the 2 doctors, unable to stop, continued to lose themselves in the abyss of the supernatural. In this era, when the underside of the world is exposed to the sun and supernatural events are endless, the 2 doctors are just a microcosm, a representative. There might be more, like the 2 doctors, eager to explore the extraordinary, only to be lost within it. Let's go back home, Nian said. Leave them here. Gwen hesitated. Leaving their glory behind in the outside world, burying the darkness within their hearts and possessions beneath this earth, that's probably what they wanted. Nian pondered, then crouched forward, placing his left hand on the ground near the 2 doctors. His 5 fingers suddenly exerted force, grasping and pressing down. Crack! Crack! The pit, already riddled with cracks, suddenly shattered and collapsed. The entangled bodies of Dr. Lizard and Dr. Octopus plummeted, buried beneath the rubble and darkness of the earth, truly devoid of sunlight. Weekend. Lying on the sofa at home, petting the young metamorphosis cub, Nian was bored. He watched on TV a program commemorating two doctors who made outstanding contributions to biology and physics, respectively, Kurt Connors and Otto Gunther Octavius. So, and what happened to that last ant leopard? That Ms. Barbara. Nian shifted on the sofa, gazing up at the owner of the long, sleek legs resting on the back of his head. Diana reached out to ruffle his hair and said calmly, "Nothing's wrong. But she probably won't dare come to this city again in the next few years." Nian inexplicably shrank his neck, imagining how horribly the leopard must have been abused. After all, when he rushed back to school, all he could see was Leopard's back as she fled in panic. "Okay, stay home. I have to go to work," Diana said, gently lifting the back of Nian's head and stuffing a pillow into it in place of her legs. Nian frowned uncomfortably. The pillow was actually quite comfortable, but compared to the one wrapped in the finest white gauze, it was clearly far less soft, smooth, and satisfying than the one wrapped in the finest white gauze. After Aunt Diana left, the house suddenly became deserted, leaving only Nian and Xiao Wang to look after it. Even little Wanda, who usually busied herself around the house, was gone. As agreed to last week, she had been whisked away to Gotham City for further studies in a special car sent by the Wayne Consortium. Oh, right. Today was the 7th day that Superman had been away. Nian could still recall, even with his eyes closed, the streets of Metropolis were deserted a few days ago, with countless people holding flowers and bidding farewell. The U.S. military even deployed warplanes with great fanfare, a funeral unprecedented in scale, even for a president. Sadly, Superman did not lie in that luxurious, flag-draped coffin. While the world was celebrating a grand funeral, Superman, in his human form as Clark Joseph Kent, lay in a simple wooden coffin at a small farewell ceremony held in front of a suburban home far from the city. So, while at the grand funeral, the empty coffin should have held the nation's justice and truth, at the smaller funeral, only a dozen or so people attended: Superman's family, his fiancée, his colleagues, and the members of the Justice League, which was being formed. This was what Diana told Nian after returning from the small funeral. Nian understood. This also meant that his aunt had decided to carry on Superman's legacy and officially join the Justice League as Wonder Woman, joining forces with other superheroes to combat future extraordinary events. This would also be the second superhero-based team after the Avengers. Nian shook his head, but he had no intention of joining any alliance. After all, both the Avengers and the Justice League were led by Iron Man and Batman, respectively, and he wasn't the type to act according to someone else's philosophies. If there's a chance in the future, I might as well start my own alliance. If nothing else, at least Gwen should be a member, right? Nian quickly put this immature thought aside. He picked up the little Emperor, the Devourer, in his arms, and got up from the sofa, muttering somewhat boredly, "Why don't I take you to see Barry Allen? He's been taking care of you for a while, and he even invited me last time." Meow. The little Emperor blinked and raised a pink padded cat paw. 5 cans of fish? Deal, Nian said generously. And so, quickly, Nian changed into his going-out clothes and headed out with an ordinary backpack. A small orange head poked out of the bag's opening. Outside, the sun was shining brightly, and the streets were bustling with people. Graffiti commemorating Superman was painted on some street walls, and Superman's image flashed across billboards in the streets and alleys. It was as if Superman was still alive, and everywhere. Nian, carrying the little Emperor in his backpack, walked along the pedestrian street toward the address Barry Allen had given. However, he was only halfway there. As he crossed the zebra-crossed sidewalk, Nian was startled. Amidst the oncoming crowd, a figure in a yellow robe stood out. It was a bald woman dressed in a strangely clean yellow robe. She stood motionless, her hands clasped behind her back, in the middle of the crosswalk at the intersection. Both her unusual attire, resembling a monk's robe, and her gesture of standing in the middle of the street, made her stand out from the crowd, unlike any other. Yet, the many passers-by on either side of the woman, and even the entire street, seemed completely oblivious to her. Nian paused. His first thought was, could he have encountered something indescribable? You can't see the horror I see. Dispelling the somewhat ridiculous thought, Nian hesitated, shifted his backpack to his chest, and continued walking, pretending not to notice. Just as Nian was about to pass by the woman like the others, she smiled faintly, glanced at him sideways, and said, "My name is Gu Yi. Recommended ranking is almost 300. Please vote for me." Chapter 81 Gotham, Housekeeper Training. Gotham City. Perhaps due to its geographical location, the city's weather is often overcast. Even at noon, the sky is always filled with thick, leaden gray clouds, a gloomy prospect that rain is about to fall. This weekend, Gotham City was once again overcast. Of course, the residents of the city are accustomed to this. With a rustle, a top-of-the-line, extended-length black Rolls-Royce entered the estate, moving gently and without a single jolt, before finally stopping in front of the iron gates of a large private manor house. The driver's seat opened. The well-dressed driver quickly and expertly stepped out, respectfully opening the rear door and bending down to block the upper edge. The red-haired girl, clearly new to such treatment, leaped from the luxurious soft seat with some discomfort. Almost as soon as she landed on the ground in her long uniform, the iron gates of the manor in front of her slowly swung inward. "Please, Miss Wanda," the driver said respectfully, raising his arm. Wanda looked in the direction indicated and came into view, a vast manor reminiscent of a royal castle, towering towers reaching up into the dark Gotham sky. Was this really the butler training base Miss Diana had mentioned? Wanda entered through the iron gates and walked down the inner corridor. Many of the maids tending the gardens and maintaining the housekeeping bowed politely and friendly upon seeing her. Wanda nodded in response. "Are you Miss Wanda?" A gentle and kind voice suddenly called from the front. Wanda instinctively looked up and saw an elderly man with pale hair, dressed in a neat suit, standing in front of the castle-like manor. "Yes, sir." The overly luxurious surroundings, with their strangely oppressive feeling of power, made Wanda bow with a certain restraint. The old man smiled and nodded. "I'm Alfred Pennyworth. In accordance with Miss Diana's request, you may address me as teacher." Wayne Manor, the main reception hall on the first floor. Wanda sat quietly and obediently in a chair, her petite feet dangling in the air, barely touching the carpet. Butler Alfu poured Wanda a cup of hot coffee. His hand was so steady that the liquid didn't even tremble, and his body seemed even stronger than his age. "How are you feeling?" Butler Alfu asked kindly. Wanda warmed her hands with the coffee and glanced around the grand main hall. The expensive, retro interior still refreshed her perception of luxury. This only made her even more nervous and reserved. She whispered, "I don't feel like I'm here for butler training. You all treat me like a young lady." "Ha ha ha, really?" Butler Alfu couldn't help but laugh. Then he winked and asked, "You don't know the status of the Prince family, do you?" "The status?" Wanda tilted her head. "How should I explain it?" Butler Alfu pondered for a moment, then said, "Let me put it this way. The young Master Wayne I serve as the head of the Wayne Group. As for the Wayne Group, its market capitalization exceeds 100 billion, encompassing sectors including technology, education, healthcare, transportation, and more. The vast majority of things you see everywhere in Gotham City are assets of the Wayne Group." Wanda's eyes widened in surprise. She had heard of the Wayne Group many times in New York. Butler Alfu paused, then continued, "And the Prince family is an equal to the Wayne family. So, as the only maid and future butler of the Prince family, you can perform according to the rules, but you don't have to bow to anyone, not even the so-called nobles or officials. After all, your status represents the family you serve, and bowing down would only damage your master's reputation." After hearing Butler Alfu's words, Wanda clearly had a better understanding of Nian and the Prince family, which made her seem less reserved and nervous. Seeing that the effect of the first lesson had been achieved, Butler Alfu cleared his throat and said in a gentle voice, "Let's get to the main topic of today. Before the formal butler training begins, I would like to ask you a question. What do you think is the most important quality of a butler?" Wanda thought about it seriously and said hesitantly, "Loyalty." "Loyalty, that is a must. It is the foundation of the foundation." Butler Alfu smiled and said, "I think the most important quality of a butler should be a sense of mission." Sense of mission. Wanda was stunned. Yes. Not only superheroes need a sense of mission, butlers must also have a unique sense of mission. Butler Alfu said in an orderly manner, "A butler's sense of mission is naturally to better serve the master. However, it is not enough to just complete the tasks ordered by the master. That is only the obligation of an ordinary servant. A butler needs to understand what the master really needs and wants, complete preparations and plans early, and serve as a powerful assistant on the master's road ahead. In addition, when the master goes astray or gets lost, he needs to provide certain guidance and help. A butler with a sense of mission needs to have the belief to dedicate his life. Butler Afu asked. His clear eyes fell on Wanda, who was only 13 years old. You are still young? Are you ready for that awakening? Little Wanda took a breath. The figure of the black-haired boy appeared in her mind, and her little face said firmly, I can do it. Butler Afu nodded. In order to do this, you need to learn more than the master, and cover a more comprehensive and extensive range of knowledge. Not only things like cleaning, but also etiquette, communication, fighting, shooting, intelligence, management, psychology, etc. Well, little Wanda hesitated, then asked, doesn't that mean I have to come to this city more often? It wasn't that it was too far, but that if it did, she'd have to get up early every weekend. Just like today, there would be no way to wake Nian up or prepare breakfast. Butler Alfu smiled and said, you don't have to come to Gotham to study on weekends anymore. I'll arrange for professional staff to teach you at your school. Wanda's eyes lit up slightly, and she asked curiously, will the school agree? Of course, Butler Alfu nodded, confidently saying, long before today, with Master Wayne's authorization, I purchased the school you're currently attending. Now, on the busiest sidewalk in downtown Washington, D.C., Nian stopped in shock, staring at the bald woman next to him who called herself Ancient One. Are you talking to me? Nian glanced sideways at the passers-by, momentarily suspecting she was talking to someone else. Nian Prince. She said his name accurately. Gui's face, whose exact age could not be determined, was calm. When he looked at Nian, a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. No need to look. The person I'm looking for is you. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Ancient One's Purpose, the Temple. What did you do? Nian asked, somewhat startled, at the unknown Ancient One. He became increasingly aware that something was amiss. Not only were the pedestrians passing by on the sidewalk oblivious to Ancient One, but even Nian himself began to slip past them. Some, seemingly unnoticed, bumped into them head-on, then mysteriously passed right through them. Ancient One and Nian seemed to have no physical form. I didn't do anything. I just pulled you and the little beast in your bag into the mirror dimension, Ancient One said with a faint smile. Mirror dimension. Nian frowned. Just then, the red light at the intersection turned green, leaving only the two of them standing on the sidewalk. Traffic began to move. Nian instinctively dodged the approaching vehicle. As for Ancient One, standing in front of him, he remained motionless, allowing the accelerating vehicle to hide him. No, it didn't. The vehicles, like the pedestrians, passed directly through Ancient One's body. Nian tried to reach for the car as it passed by, but couldn't touch it either. Instead, his fingertips revealed a strange side of shattered glass. Are we in a mirror? Nian muttered to himself, as if realizing something. Ancient One nodded and explained softly, to be more precise, we're in another dimension. This dimension is very close to a real world, like a mirror, so we call it mirror space, which allows us to observe the real world. You? Nian raised an eyebrow. Yes, we. Ancient One stared at Nian and said bluntly, I come from Kamar Taj and am a supreme sorcerer. Mage. Nian pondered, his hand still resting on the zipper of his backpack. Master Ancient One, may I ask what you may be seeking? If there was an emergency later, he would have to let the Little Emperor bite him to gain extraordinary powers. However, Little Emperor still harbors dormant venom. If bitten by Little Emperor, he would likely transform into his previous, transcendental state. This state would blur and distort his personality and rationality, making his behavior more like that of a villain. Another solution, let the Devourer Cub take action directly. I mean no harm. I simply want to invite you to Kamar Taj. Ancient One, as if aware of Nian's defensiveness, looked at him calmly, but even if I said that, you wouldn't believe me. She glanced down at the backpack on Nian's chest and suddenly suggested, how about this? Let it try. You said it, Nian said without hesitation, suddenly calling out, Little Emperor. With his cry, an orange figure suddenly leaped from the zipper of the backpack. Little Emperor, A young devourer of the cosmic species, swiftly pounced towards Ancient One. Its small mouth opened hideously, forming a bloody maw, and several tentacles covered Ancient One's body with tiny teeth. Ancient One's expression remained calm as he gazed at the approaching tentacles and fangs. His right hand, which had been held behind his back, suddenly thrust forward with a palm strike. Bang! The moment Ancient One's palm struck Little Queen's body, a yellow shadow resembling a devouring beast and a shadow resembling a ball of black liquid were simultaneously swatted from Little Queen's back. Little Queen's true form fell unconscious, reverting to its normal kitten form before falling back into Nian's arms. Little Queen's shadow floated in the air, letting out a surprised meow. The venomous shadow remained motionless, floating in the low sky as if dead. "They're fine, I simply swatted their souls away," Ancient One explained calmly, withdrawing his palm. "That's a bit excessive." Nian's mouth twitched slightly. He felt that even a trio of them might not be enough to defeat Ancient One at that moment. After all, they weren't going to play physical attacks with you. "That's right. I remember my aunt's lasso of truth could snare anything. Perhaps that's the only way to deal with souls." The Ancient One continued, "Now, believe me, I bear you no ill will. I simply want to invite you to Kamartaj." If those in the know knew, they'd doubt everything they'd seen. Kamartaj. That's the legendary Temple of Miracles, an unknowable place, where countless people searched their entire lives but never set foot. "Let's go." "Where is it?" Nian, seeing the Ancient One's sincerity and genuinely wanting to delve into the mysteries of this world's spells and magical arts, nodded in agreement. "Here." The Ancient One pointed, causing the Devourer's soul and Venom's soul to fall back onto the Devourer's body. She then raised her hand and inexplicably drew circles in the air. A fiery spark emerged before her, spinning into a wheel, and soon a circular portal, wide enough for passage, was formed. The Ancient One stepped into the strange portal. Nian wasn't afraid either, carrying the gradually awakening little emperor inside. Kathmandu's secluded abode, Kamartaj. On the ancient open-air training grounds of the temple, the black-robed mage Mordo was teaching magic to a dozen mages, young and old. Suddenly, the air nearby rippled like shards of glass. It was the mirror dimension. However, even the most powerful mage Mordo couldn't clearly see what was happening within the mirror dimension. As if realizing something, Mage Mordo's expression shifted slightly. He and the other mages bowed respectfully and enthusiastically toward the void on the side of the glass mirror. "Supreme Mage." "Continue," the Ancient One's voice echoed from within the mirror dimension. "All right, let's continue training." Mage Mordo seemed excited. After all, it had been a long time since the Supreme Mage had personally witnessed their practice. He immediately led the mages in the ancient training ground in a spell drill. Unbeknownst to them, at this moment, within the mirror dimension, besides Ancient One, there was also a young boy holding a cat. In the mirror space, as if he were in the real ancient training ground, Nian looked carefully at the mages in the temple outside. They all wore a strange ring on their hands, as if using it as a medium for magic tools, condensing out of thin air into golden energy sigils, round shields, energy whips, and even drawing the cool and dazzling portals. Unexpectedly, in addition to the organizations formed by superheroes, there are also such a large-scale magic force hidden in the world. Nian pondered secretly. Putting aside the actual combat of this spell, the practicality seems very good. For example, with a portal, you will no longer be afraid of being late for school. How about it? Ancient One looked at Nian, smiled lightly as if to guide him intentionally, and said, "If you want to learn, I will teach you." Chapter 83. That stunning blush. Kamartaj, the inner world of the mirror dimension. "Teach me." Nian blinked. "Yes." Ancient One nodded slightly, and said calmly and firmly, "If you want to learn, you can join Kamartaj, and I will teach you magic." Nian was not delighted, but frowned. He did not think that he was gifted and valued by transcendent forces. Although many years ago, he still fantasized about an owl suddenly delivering a letter one day, or a doctor from Chicago saying that he had dragon genes in his body. The same thing. 16 years later, everything has become clear. "Are there any restrictions for joining Kamartaj?" Nian asked cautiously. There were no such extraordinary wizards in the outside world, and it was obvious that joining Kamartaj had enough restrictions. The Ancient One whispered, "Once you join Kamartaj and become its mage, you're doomed to hide on the other side of the world, unable to easily use your magic in reality." You'll also shoulder the weighty responsibility of protecting the world from invasions by terrifying beings from higher dimensions. Protecting the world, fighting higher dimensions. Upon hearing this, Nian shook his head decisively. Forget it, I'm not the type to save the world. The Ancient One said calmly, if it were you, all you would need to do is register on Kamartaj. After learning the spell portal, you'd be free to enter and exit Kamartaj to study, and the rules of Kamartaj wouldn't apply to you. Is there such a good thing? Nian felt more and more uneasy. Even though he didn't know much, he could tell that what the Ancient One said must be a huge exception for Kamartaj. Mage. Nian took a deep breath, calming himself. You say, the Ancient One nodded. Nian looked at her intently, unable to conceal his excitement, and asked, do you see that I'm gifted, a top-tier talent for learning magic? Ancient One stared at Nian in silence for a long moment before speaking. I can indeed see whether a person has the potential to harmonize with nature and learn magic. Nian clenched his fists and spoke quickly. So, tell me, if I start learning your spell portal now, how long will it take? A year, or 6 months? Ancient One hesitated, then held up a finger and replied bluntly, 100 years and 1 day. Nian's breath hitched. Master, are you kidding me? And are you sure I can live past 100 years? Ancient One soothed, actually, that's pretty good. The vast majority of humans, due to physical limitations, are simply unable to perceive the natural energies of the outside world and thus practice magic. Forget it, Nian said, a look of despair on his face. He was a natural at taking shortcuts. Even if he was guaranteed to master it in 10, let alone 100 years, he wouldn't waste his time. Wouldn't it be better to do something else with that time and energy? Right. An idea flashed through Nian's mind, and he suddenly asked the Ancient One, Master, can I transfer my place to someone else? The Ancient One gave him a deep look and said calmly, do you want to transfer your place to that red-haired girl in your family? You know all that. Nian really wanted Wanda to study at Kamartaj. After all, he was at least half transcendent, while Wanda was just an ordinary person. If she learned magic, she would be able to handle certain dangers in the future. Besides, what your maid learned belonged to you, so why not use the place? Nian raised his eyes and asked curiously, so, Master Ancient One, can you see that Wanda has the potential to learn your magic? The Ancient One fell silent again. Finally, she held up a finger, 10,000 times faster than you. What did you say? Nian momentarily wondered if he had misheard. Washington Street, intersection. The red light signaling a no-go zone flashed, and pedestrians came and went on the sidewalk. In the crowd, a black-haired boy, holding a small orange cat, suddenly appeared, as if he had been there forever. No one seemed even slightly curious about his sudden appearance. Mage, Kamartaj. Nian muttered softly, then followed the passers-by, holding Xiao Wang and continuing to walk towards the end of the pedestrian street. It was not far from Barry Allen's home. Nian spotted Barry walking down the street from a distance, still dressed in his jacket and casual pants. However, just as Nian was about to wave and say hello, as if he had a sudden realization, he turned around and walked back with Xiao Wang in his arms. Meow. Xiao Wang tilted his head in confusion. Let's go buy some dried fish. Let's not bother them. Nian smiled knowingly. He had just seen it. Barry was accompanied by a beautiful black girl. They talked and laughed, as if immersed in their own world. Evening. Nian returned home laden with bags of groceries, mostly cat food. The two women, one large and one small, hadn't returned yet, leaving the darkened house feeling rather deserted. Bathing, feeding the cat. Nian was sprawled on the comfortable sofa, turning on the TV, when the door opened. Master, I'm back, a crisp, yet soft, voice rang out from the doorway. Nian glanced up, his eyes instantly filled with astonishment. It was none other than Wanda, who had gone to Gotham to study. She had changed into a vibrant red dress, the color complementing her crimson hair. The exposed areas of her neck, wrists, and feet appeared wider than the first snowfall of winter. Wanda's doll-like face, naturally, looked charming and docile in any outfit. But the high-end, small-size red dress seemed made for her, evoking the aristocratic princess from a modern oil painting. The white, semi-transparent silk scarf wrapped around her head and neck further softened her aristocratic demeanor. Princess, maid, two completely different identities seemed to merge into one. Nian's heart skipped a beat. Adorable. Glad you're back, Xinian forced her gaze away, fixing it on the television screen. Ah, it's almost 7 o'clock. I'll go make dinner, Wanda said, a little flustered, slipping off her black boots and checking the time. No need to make dinner today, Xinian waved. I ate out and bought a cheesecake. Come join us. Wanda nodded gently. She looked at Xinian on the sofa, her face hesitant for a moment, then, summoning her courage and making up her mind, stepped forward. The cakes. Xinian paused before she could finish her words, seeing Wanda approach. The girl sat down on the sofa next to Xinian, her small hands supporting her, her body and face leaning forward. Wanda's face showed fatigue and expectation, and she whispered, Wanda worked very hard today. She listened to Mr. Afu's lectures and followed the head maid. She learned a lot of things including etiquette. Although I was very tired, I persisted. They all praised me, but... She stopped talking here, a little hesitant and embarrassed. Looking at the little maid's posture of request and obedience, Nian seemed to understand something at this moment. He put his hand on Wanda's little head, smiled and gently touched her hair a few times. Thank you for your hard work, Wanda, you did a good job. This is regarded as a separate chapter for the Scarlet Witch character. It reduces her popularity. Isn't this a compliment to her character? Chapter 84 The Flame That Shoots into the Sky. The Scarlet Maid, like a kitten, half crouched on the sofa, begging for a reward. With a touch of tenderness, Nian placed his hand on her head, gently caressing it. His palm rubbed against the white, semi-transparent silk scarf and the soft, crimson hair, a sensation indescribably exquisite, surpassing even the little emperor's. Wanda's flawless face flushed slightly, despite Nian's controlled effort. She instinctively rubbed her head upwards, increasing the friction between his hand and her own. Finally, she lifted her head slightly, letting his large hand slide through the smooth crimson hair, down to touch the girl's warm face. She clearly desired Nian's reward and praise more than the praise from 10, maybe even 100 people in Gotham. Alright, let's eat the cake, Nian said, feigning composure as he withdrew his hand. Wanda's face flushed like a small fruit, as if she had absorbed a sufficient amount of vital energy. She slid down from the sofa with vigor. She unwrapped the cheesecake box on the main hall table, cut it with a provided disposable knife and fork, and soon returned to the sofa with a plate of cheesecake. Master, please taste it first, Wanda, dressed in a red dress, said softly, as if she had already entered the state of a maid's professional life, and handed the cake to him with a fork. You should eat it quickly too. Xinian quickly took the cake, worried that if he didn't, Wanda might feed him. While eating cheesecake, Xinian watched TV and said to Wanda, you can wear this dress outside, but that white scarf on your head and neck, well, don't wear it outside. The red dress alone was fine, but when paired with a docile white scarf, the desire to dirty the scarf suddenly arose. I put this on at the door after I got home. Wanda nibbled at the cake, tugging at the scarf around her neck, blushing softly. I didn't show it to anyone else. Xinian took a deep breath and put down the clean plate of cake. It was unbearable. Master. Wanda, as if suddenly aware of something, hurried forward and gently wiped the corner of Xinian's mouth. Seeing the white cheese stain on her tender fingers, Wanda licked them like a kitten, then quickly realized her behavior was unbecoming. A flicker of panic flashed across her eyes, and she quickly apologized to Xinian. Alright, go shower first, Xinian urged quickly. After Wanda entered the bathroom, Xinian finally breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a surge of pain in his heart. She was so young, yet so charismatic. Who knew what she would be like when she grew up? Fortunately, at that moment, the door opened again. Xinian looked up, his eyes once again filled with astonishment. With her black hair neatly tied up in an intelligent and elegant bun, her eyelashes thick and slender, and her features defined, a mature, white-collar beauty in a hip-hugging white uniform entered. She slipped off the black high heels that had adorned her delicate white feet on the carpet and placed them next to Wanda's black boots. No matter how many times she saw it, her aunt remained always so elegant and beautiful, a completely different kind of stunning than Wanda's. And, Nian quickly stood up and stepped forward. What happened? Diana asked curiously, meeting Nian's gaze with a hint of intensity. Nian's breathing became rapid, and he nervously said, I want to hand in my tonight homework early. Diana couldn't help but tremble slightly. Although she was accustomed to tutoring every night, today's request was too sudden, and she wasn't prepared for it. And, is this okay? Diana opened her mouth to respond to Nian's earnest question, but finally nodded lightly, unable to refuse. Permission granted. Nian stepped forward without hesitation, his hands clasping the graceful curves of her waist. When her host bowed slightly in response, revealing the alluring softness of her lightly made up, Nian anxiously moved forward to hold her. With her demigod body, she naturally felt no pain, but the sensation was undoubtedly unprecedented. Diana's beautiful eyes revealed a hint of helplessness and fascination, and she worried that Nian, who hadn't secured a medium, might get hurt. When Wanda emerged from the shower, she saw the two of them calmly watching TV on the sofa and exclaimed in surprise, "Miss Diana, you're back." "Yes, just now," Diana smiled faintly and asked softly, "How was your study trip to Gotham today?" "Very good. Mr. Alpha is truly the best butler in the world. I'm learning so much from him," Wanda replied quickly. Then, with a hint of curiosity, she cast a glance at Nian, who lay hunched over beside Diana, his hair transformed into long silver. "It's okay, I'm just reflecting." Nian, in his demigod mode, seemed to understand Wanda's thoughts and waved his hand weakly. Tonight's homework assignment was a bit over the top. Nian, Diana, and Wanda, like a family, sat on the sofa, watching TV. If it weren't for what had just happened, the scene would undoubtedly have been quite heartwarming. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, just as the Nian family was getting ready for bed, a strange news report suddenly appeared on the television. This reporter is reporting from Crete. "You can see, kilometers behind me, a huge fire is rising into the sky. This ancient ruin, thousands of years old, the Amazon temple, has caught fire. The fire has been burning all day, and the government and residents are stunned, not knowing the exact cause." The news footage on the TV screen showed a white ruin of an ancient temple, ablaze both exterior and interior. The flames, like a giant beacon, burned the night sky red. The Amazon temple? Nian's mind fluttered, and he glanced at his Aunt Diana. Diana's expression was solemn, and she nodded at him imperceptibly. After Wanda returned to her room to sleep, Nian secretly went to Aunt Diana's room. Upon entering, he found her dressed in her heroic Wonder Woman costume. "That's Paradise Island sounding a warning, telling us we're being invaded." Wonder Woman said quickly, "I'm going to the Amazon temple now to see if there are any clues there." "I'll go with you," Nian said solemnly, his eyes gleaming with icy silver. "All right," Wonder Woman nodded in agreement. That night, Crete, Amazon temple. The local government mobilized countless personnel to put out the fire. No one noticed as two figures plummeted from the sky into the temple ruins. Chapter 85 Motherbox, Crisis Approaches. On the coastal coast of Crete, a white ancient temple stood here from an unknown era. Its perfectly preserved exterior and interior remain a fascinating relic of civilization for many archaeologists. Late at night, as local firefighters surrounded the ruins, two figures, one large and one small, wandered freely within. They were a black-haired woman clad in a bizarre ancient battlesuit and weapon, and a silver-haired youth draped in a simple white trench coat. Sensing the lingering traces of divine power within the temple, Wonder Woman and Nian quickly reached an open-air fire chamber, still blazing with flames. This was clearly the source of the fire in the Amazon temple. As if sensing the arrival of a supreme being, the flames within the fire chamber suddenly died down, revealing an object at the center of the room. Nian, in demigod mode, immediately entered, crouched down, and plucked an arrow from the floor. The arrowhead gleamed with the chill of a starry night sky, seemingly coated in a layer of dark gilt. The shaft was inscribed with mysterious ancient Greek script, reminiscent of the materials and craftsmanship of the various artifacts worn by my aunt. Another artifact? As Nian grasped it in his hand, he could clearly sense a surge of fiery divine power lurking, dormant. Wonder Woman gazed at the arrow in his hand and whispered, "That's the arrow of Artemis, capable of piercing the barrier of Paradise Island and reaching this human world. My mother shot it from Paradise Island and lit the ancient beacon fire, presumably to warn us. An alien invasion." Nian muttered to himself, grasping the divine arrow as if it were a weapon. "Indeed, there's likely information left here as to who the enemy is." Wonder Woman entered the innermost fire chamber of the temple and suddenly placed her slender hand on a spot on the wall. At that moment, divine power activated, triggering a mechanism that caused one side of the solid, sealed stone wall to sink inwards, shedding countless rubble and dust, revealing a tunnel unopened for millennia. The tunnels stretched unfathomably deep, dark and silent, brimming with the air of timeless passages. Let's go. Wonder Woman pulled out the lasso of truth with one hand and reached out to Nian with the other. Nian grasped his cool, jade-like hand. Thump. Nian and hair leaped into the tunnel, plummeting 20 meters to the subterranean chamber beneath the temple. Wonder Woman raised her left hand gently, and the lasso of truth swirled freely like a firefly, its own golden glow providing dim illumination. Nian groped in the inner pocket of his windbreaker, pulled out his phone, and switched on flashlight mode. The phone instantly glowed with a dazzling daylight, like a miniature flashlight, illuminating the white stone steps leading down ahead. The phone, the eternal god. Times have changed, Auntie, Nian said with a triumphant wink. Wonder Woman calmly withdrew the lasso of truth and flicked her finger against the boy's smooth forehead, prompting Nian to tactfully shut up. Illuminated by their phones, Nian and Wonder Woman descended deeper and deeper down the stone steps, eventually reaching a truly hidden underground chamber. Wonder Woman, with a sudden thought, said, "Shine your phone on the wall." Nian did as he was told, raising his phone toward the vast chamber, instantly illuminating a vast mural covered in bizarre patterns and ancient Greek script. Nian's eyes widened. Though he couldn't read the text, he instantly recognized one of the patterns. Wasn't it the metal box he'd seen on the stone altar in the main hall of the building he'd lived in on Paradise Island? However, the mural featured 3 boxes, each connected in a triad. Nian continued to glance to the side, and a magnificent scene, reminiscent of an ancient battle, came into view. Yes, an ancient battle featuring a massive galaxy of warships. Wonder Woman looked at the ancient Greek text above, her delicate and beautiful face becoming increasingly solemn. She began to explain, "It records an ancient battle that took place long, long ago. The invading enemy was a dark and ancient cosmic force that wanted to invade Earth and conquer the world. The leader of the invading alien fleet was named Darkseid." Darkseid? Nian pondered. Wonder Woman looked at the mural and said, "This name is cursed and feared throughout the universe. At that time, the Guardians of Earth waged a great war with Darkseid. The old gods, humans, Amazons, guardians from the stars, Atlantis and other forces participated in the battle. And just as Darkseid was provoking war, he discovered a secret on Earth, a power hidden in infinite space." "What power?" Nian frowned, suddenly remembering the cosmic cube and the mind scepter he had obtained. The power hidden in those 2 mysterious items was unfathomable. "We don't know what secret he discovered." Wonder Woman shook her head and continued, "But it's clear that Darkseid is desperate to seize it, so he's using the 3 mother boxes created by their Apocalypse civilization, living, indestructible products of Apocalypse technology. When the 3 mother boxes combine in a trinity, the power they generate is enough to refine the entire planet, bringing Earth completely under Darkseid's control." "He failed," Nian said. "After all, if he had achieved his goal, Earth would no longer exist." Wonder Woman nodded. "Yes, the ancient guardians of Earth united to drive Darkseid and his fleet from Earth. As for the 3 mother boxes, to prevent it from calling upon Apocalypse again, one was held by the human forces of the time, one by the nation of Atlantis, and the whereabouts of the final mother box, as you know, is hidden on Paradise Island, home to our Amazonian people. The situation isn't optimistic, is it?" Nian's eyes narrowed. The fact that Paradise Island lit a beacon to issue a warning signal clearly indicated that 1 mother box had been seized by the Apocalypse forces who had infiltrated Earth. If they had found the remaining 2, the consequences would have been disastrous. "Auntie, what do you want to do next?" Nian glanced at Wonder Woman, who stood by. Wonder Woman raised a heroic brow. "We can't delay any longer. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, I will go find the 2 people I mentioned and have them join the Justice League. We must quickly assemble a strong enough team to prepare to deal with the infiltrating Apocalypse forces. Don't forget me. With you here, I can fight too," Nian said, taking a deep breath. "Of course, you are my real trump card. If I need you, I will not forget you." Wonder Woman smiled slightly and reached out to touch Nian's silver hair. However, Nian did not notice that a strange and determined look flashed in her eyes. Chapter 86 Black Myth, 3-in-1. Late at night, in the top-floor office of SHIELD headquarters, the cool and sexy Black Widow stood erect at her desk. SHIELD. Director Nick Fury sat in his office chair, his single, penetrating eye fixed on a report on the table. "Is this the intelligence you gathered from your investigation?" Director Fury asked gravely. Black Widow nodded quickly, "Yes. While many things happened at the school, This is the conclusion I reached through intelligence analysis. Thank you for your hard work. Go back and rest, Director Fury said, his eyes lowered. He glanced at Black Widow's bandaged arm and waved. Black Widow nodded and turned to leave the office. Only one person remained in the office. Director Fury opened the intelligence file Black Widow had handed him. Inside was the personal information and photo of Nian Prince. He flipped through it briefly, then turned to the last page. The last section of the personal intelligence file read, after 5 days of in-depth investigation and personal analysis, the investigation target, Nian Prince, is an ordinary human, without any supernatural abilities. Director Fury was silent for a moment, then sighed softly. He sorted through all the intelligence on Nian and placed it in a drawer in his desk. Director Fury hadn't noticed that among the files he hadn't read, in a nondescript photo of Nian, there was an orange kitten. Leaving the director's office, Black Widow let out a sigh of relief. Even she didn't know why she had concealed Nian's seemingly unattractive talent. Or perhaps it was her own goodwill at work? So she wrote information that benefited Nian. After all, something like increasing favorability couldn't be considered a supernatural ability, right? At least, it wouldn't work in real combat. Black Widow reasoned with herself. It's impossible to let Nian go out and socialize to solve the problem when facing a powerful enemy of the opposite sex. A date alive? Black Widow shook her head, discarding her overly strange and ridiculous idea. The next day, Sunday morning. Nian woke up to Wanda's moaning service. He yawned and rubbed his short hair that had turned from silver back to black. It was time for demigod mode. Nian stayed up late last night, thinking about how to deal with the lurking apocalypse forces. Although there are tall people to hold up the sky when it falls, if his aunt is among the tall people, how could he just stand by and watch? If Lorna can't be found, the most stable and powerful abilities that can be obtained now are my aunt's demigod body, the 3-in-1 body, and Gwen's spider-mutated physique. Nian muttered to himself. Among them, the 3-in-1 body is undoubtedly the most powerful in actual combat. Physical strength is legendary. However, the triad had a significant flaw. The combined malevolence of the symbiote and the beastly nature of the devourer would distort the humanity of Nian, the leader, and turn him into a dark, evil being. That's right, Nian thought. What if one of the 3 elements of the triad could be replaced by his Aunt Diana? After acquiring the abilities of Venom and Devourer, he could then use the symbiote's powers to parasitize his aunt. Could his aunt's divinity suppress the symbiote's malevolence? This bold idea seemed feasible, but Nian wasn't sure. Would the fusion of these two opposing forces, the demigod and the symbiote, weaken or strengthen them? What would the ultimate outcome be? Dark myth mode? Nian's eyes grew more determined. No matter what, if faced with an alien battle involving Apocalypse's forces, even if his aunt deliberately excluded him from the fight, he would let Xiao Wang bite him, gaining the power to transform into a triad, and then parasitize his aunt for protection. Nian thought to himself and was about to get out of bed when a small, orange-yellow figure darted through the door. Little Emperor, what's wrong? Nian looked down, curiously watching the little Emperor, who had rushed into his room and sprawled across his blanket. A flicker of hesitation flashed through the little Emperor's eyes, and then, it opened its tiny mouth, like baby teeth, and quickly bit Nian's hand. The boy's handsome face froze. Nian might have thought about it, but it was a measure forced upon him during the alien war, not something he'd use now. Besides, Aunt Diana wasn't home right now. Before Nian could even consider, the mediation was established, and the Master of the Familiar was triggered. The long-lost yet familiar powers of the symbiote and the devourer surged into his body. Nian froze, his body instantly dissolving into a pool of black liquid, softening on his bed. This was an unexpected path, and everything happened so suddenly. The little Emperor watched the viscous, shifting black liquid nearby, holding his breath, and then, without hesitation, dove in. Gurgling. Nian subconsciously parasitized Xiao Wang. The kitten's orange fur quickly turned black, its muscles and bones strengthened countless times by the dual symbiotes. Its body expanded and shrank, finally settling into its ultimate black kitten form. A pair of cyan eyes, flickering like flaming flames, open with a fierce and ferocious look. The 3-in-1 Nian, unexpectedly online. Master, eh? Wanda, noticing Nian still hadn't left the room, walked back in. The young man was no longer on the bed. Furthermore, the window, which she hadn't opened earlier, now opened a tiny crack, letting a chilly breeze wind into the room. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, a black kitten crouched on the water tower. Its face twisted and struggled, and finally a hint of reason emerged in its eyes. Fortunately, the symbiote venom was still dormant, and the devourer showed no interest in taking over the body, so Nian retained control. However, human nature was instantly distorted and disrupted, and rationality plummeted to a dangerous edge. It muttered hoarsely to itself, "Little Emperor, I need an explanation. Why are you doing this? Meow meow, save." Stero, Little Emperor's anxious thoughts surfaced in Nian's mind. Thanks to their trinity, Nian instantly understood what Little Emperor meant. Little Emperor, as a young meta-devouring beast, couldn't even remember what his parents looked like. He only remembered that he had been searching for an alien creature named Stero. Little Emperor had been searching for it on Earth, like a lifelong goal. Even though he had forgotten many things, only this memory remained. Originally, he had no clue, wandering around. Later, even after living in Nian's home, he never gave up searching for Stero's whereabouts. Until today, he suddenly could vaguely sense Stero's location. "You want me to help find him?" Nian understood the whole story. Little Emperor knew he couldn't find Stero on his own, so he sought Nian's help. Since humans and meta-devouring beasts couldn't communicate, they had to force their current trinity into existence. Chapter 87 Black Flash Target, Iron Man. In New York, at the Stark Industries headquarters. Just over a week had passed since the Battle of New York, and while many streets were still undergoing repairs, Stark Tower had long since completed its post-war restoration, now standing in the heart of the city in a completely renovated state. On the top floor of Stark headquarters, this served as both the office and personal workstation of Tony Stark, the head of Stark Industries, Iron Man. The playboy, dressed in a comfortable black t-shirt and casual trousers, sat in a chair, clicking and swiping at a 3D virtual projection screen. His stubbled face, with a serious and focused expression, he was adjusting the parameters of a certain project. So immersed in the ultra-high-tech world of machinery and intelligence, he was completely oblivious to the mature woman in a white, hip-hugging suit exiting the elevator behind him. It wasn't until she approached and placed a fragrant cup of hot coffee on the table that he realized, "Boss, have a drink first." "Thank you." Stark, finally waking up from his dream, took a sip of his hot coffee, as his personal secretary called out to him. "Tony," Pepper Potts said, even changing her address to address Stark, looking at his slightly haggard face. "You've been working for 7 or 8 days straight since the war. You should get some rest." "I'm fine." Stark gulped down half his coffee, then returned his gaze to the virtual screen, his excitement and energy barely concealed. "Recently, with Dr. Banner here, our development of Iron Man armor has been going very smoothly. Especially the anti-type armor. We've already completed the construction of 2 major series of models." Stark excitedly opened his arms. All right. Pepper rolled her eyes at Stark, knowing his nature. As the saying goes, sleeping models come and go, but the Iron Man suit remains. But it was precisely because of this that he was Iron Man. "You, the hands-off boss, keep working on your armor. I have a lot of things I need to take care of at the company." Pepper sighed helplessly, gracefully tapping her high heels as she made her way to the elevator on the top floor. Just as the elevator door closed, Pepper's. In the top floor lobby, the voice of the AI Jarvis suddenly boomed, "Sir, our satellites have detected what appears to be a black flash." Stark shuddered at the words and quickly asked, "Where?" Jarvis immediately switched the virtual projection to a 3-dimensional world map. A target, marked as a black dot, could be clearly seen moving across the vast waters of the Atlantic Ocean near South America. Satellite data indicated the target's speed was Mach 2 or 3. "Is it on a plane?" Stark asked, perplexed. After all, no ship could possibly reach such speeds. Jarvis replied, "Obviously not. They must be acting alone." "All right," Stark shrugged. While this was highly illogical, the black flash's very existence was illogical. He paused, then said, "Analyze the trajectory data and determine where it's headed." "All right, sir." Jarvis executed the command. Within 2 seconds, an arrow appeared on the virtual projection, rapidly pointing to a spot in the sea ahead of the target black dot. There lay an island. Codamadus. Stark muttered the island nation's name aloud, pondering. "I remember it was a small island nation. What's so special about it that it would attract the attention of Black Flash? The AI, Jarvis, gathered information online and quickly obtained the intelligence Stark sought. He condensed it into a concise response. Just last week, an armed rebellion broke out in Codamadus. The Herrera family, once in power, was killed. General Silvio Luna now controls the island nation. That's all. Stark frowned. He didn't believe the armed rebellion of a single island nation would attract the attention of that terrifying entity. Jarvis said, "Sir, we have some intelligence information encrypted by high-level U.S. officials. Do you want to decrypt it?" "Decrypt," Stark ordered without hesitation. It took about 3 seconds. The AI Jarvis said, "It's Project Starfish. There's a local research institute called Jotunheim on Codamadus. For 30 years, they've been conducting Project Starfish, researching extraterrestrial life. This project has the potential to pose a grave threat to the world. Also, Amanda Waller, a high-ranking U.S. government official, is organizing a special team, codenamed Task Force X, composed mostly of serious criminals from Gotham City, to travel to Codamadus to eliminate any potential risks to Project Starfish." After hearing the AI Jarvis's story, Stark couldn't help but shake his head. Using a group of serious criminals to eliminate a potential global crisis? That sounds like something those higher-ranking U.S. officials would do. Using supernatural beings to combat supernatural threats was perfectly fine, but using criminals changed the nature of the situation. However, Stark didn't care, and didn't bother to pay attention to the U.S. officials' actions. His target was the Black Flash, whom he had encountered once before. Watching the black dot target creeping ever closer to the island nation, Stark, without giving it a second thought, quickly issued an order to Jarvis. "Jarvis, call up Anti-Series Armor Number 1, the anti-Black Flash model." "Jarvis, sir, that armor is currently just data parameters in an experimental model, not a complete, combat-ready product." Stark frowned slightly, then said in a deep, unyielding voice, "Build it now, rush it, and get it ready for me as quickly as possible." "Yes, sir." The Atlantic Ocean. It was nighttime here, and beneath the veil of darkness, the sea was a pitch black. Waves rolled and tumbled in the darkness, the gentle night breeze caressing the surface, making it appear perfectly calm. Then, a water arrow streaked across the surface, like a streak of black lightning, shattering the ocean's tranquility with its arrival. The black lightning bolt was so fast it easily broke the sound barrier, crackling the air wherever it passed, gathering a noticeable storm around it and sending a wave of violent spray to either side. With a whoosh, in the blink of an eye, he sprinted to the sea 100 meters away. In the center of the black lightning, a pair of beastly eyes blazed like blazing blue flames. It was Nian, a 3-in-1, black kitten. His 4 cat-like paws, like helicopter propellers, darted away, leaving wisps of afterimage, allowing him to remain above the surface. Like a perpetual motion machine, he raced for countless miles. Ahead of Nian, a massive island finally appeared, stretching across the sea. He continued to traverse the coastal waters without losing speed, arriving at the island's shore. A sudden flash of bloodlust flashed in the beastly eyes of the 3-in-1 Nian. The moment he stepped onto the island's shore, he sensed the cold, murderous aura of this land. Chapter 88: The Dangerous Black Kitten. The air along the island's coast was thick with the scent of blood and gunpowder. In his Trinity state, he stepped onto the beach in the form of a black kitten. With his night vision, Nian glanced ahead. He could see that at the border of the island's coastal beach and rainforest, a brutal battle had clearly just ended. The ground was littered with human remains, helicopter and artillery turret fragments, and scattered bullet casings. In some places, flames and smoke lingered. From the signs of a raging catastrophe, one could imagine the horrific intensity of the battle just now. However, there was no sound or sign of life on the shoreline. No one survived? "Where is the stero you sensed?" Nian asked in an inexplicably hoarse voice. "Meow." Xia Ahurong's response echoed in Nian's mind. "I can only vaguely sense it's on this island." Sense? Could it be through some kind of spatial perception? The thought flashed through Nian's mind, but even Xia Ahurong himself had no idea. It's still in its cub stage, and its innate abilities as a primordial devourer may yet be developed. Just as Nian was about to investigate further into the island, he paused, his gaze suddenly landing on a spot on the beach. There, crouched a non-human creature resembling a humanoid weasel. It appeared to have choked on water, its body drenched. but the subtle rhythm of its heartbeat indicated it was still alive. The night deepened. Inside the island, a team was making their way through the pristine, dense rainforest. Besides humans dressed in various styles of armor, this group also included a bipedal shark-like monster and a young girl carrying a rat on her shoulders. So hungry, I want to eat, the shark-like monster muttered to itself in human language, saliva dripping from its mouth as it patted its flat shark belly with its hands. Damn it. Are you sure this thing won't eat us like rations? A male member of the team, wearing a helmet and a red shirt, cursed. Of course not, it's our friend. The young white girl blinked innocently and waved at the shark monster beside her. I don't believe it. The man in red snorted, his left hand tightly gripping his custom-made long-barreled pistol. You almost got eaten by it just now. It's probably already digested by now. It's completely unconvincing. Everyone, be quiet. The black man, obviously the leader of the team, dressed in a black uniform, said in a deep voice, we can't help it. They've already said it's our team's strongest weapon. Without it, we can't enter Jotunheim. We don't want the bomb inside us to detonate. We need to successfully complete the mission and return to the prison, and keep the team moving forward. Yes, that's it. As the black man finished his words, a calm female voice echoed simultaneously over the team members' microcomms. Thousands of kilometers away from the current island nation, in a high-rise base somewhere in the continental United States, in a hall filled with surveillance screens and mainframe computers, a black woman in a professional dress stared coldly at the screen, remotely monitoring the mission team composed of serious criminals from Dream Prison. The black woman was Amanda Waller, the high-ranking American official behind Task Force X. If any of the criminals on duty tried to escape or stray from the mission, she would unhesitatingly trigger the remote explosive device embedded in their bodies. If you want to reduce your sentence, then act accordingly. Amanda Waller said solemnly into the communicator. Understood, a silent young man with strange light spots on his body responded weakly. But before anyone else could say anything, the eyes of a shark monster in the team suddenly lit up, its shark-like maw opened wide, and it swiftly and violently pounced into a corner of the jungle. Only then did the other members notice. Suddenly, a black kitten emerged from the rainforest undergrowth. It crouched harmlessly on a rock, its radiant green eyes gazing at them. It looked rather cute, didn't it? Faced with a behemoth 10 times its size, the shark monster pounced with ferocious force. The black kitten suddenly gave a sinister, ferocious grin, a surging, menacing aura emanating from its body. It suddenly swung its tiny front paw forward, and the air instantly crackled. As if struck by a heavy truck, the mid-air shark monster was instantly sent flying, crashing into the rainforest behind with a roar. The 2-meter-tall, powerful shark body flew backwards for 10 meters, barely coming to rest after crashing down several trees. My God. Fuck. Witnessing this terrifying, sudden turn of events, an unprecedented chill shot down their spines, sending shivers down the spines of the players present. Just a moment ago, they had promised to be the strongest force. True to their reputation as criminals, they reacted with a moment of shock. After a brief moment of shock, they simultaneously launched a counterattack. The black captain, holding his large caliber gun, pulled the trigger, firing accurately. The man in red also quickly raised his wrist and fired his long-barreled pistol. The young man, shrouded in light, raised his palms and blasted forward a dense, strange burst of energy. A young woman, clutching a strange, glowing technological device, intended to summon the island's rats to attack, but then, as if realizing something, her beautiful face instantly paled as she stared in terror at the black kitten before her. Facing a dense barrage of bullets and light, a barrage engulfed it. The black kitten crouched motionless. The next moment, bullets and light pummeled its tiny form fiercely. As the members of Task Force X watched in disbelief, the physical bullet struck the black kitten, only to bounce back or grazed its surface, deflecting backwards. The light energy, powerful enough to pierce and dissolve stone, struck the black kitten, unable to even dissolve a single hair. No. The black kitten itself had no hair. Its streamlined body was coated in a dark, biological cortex. Bullets and light pummeling it proved impervious to attack. The black kitten, facing the team's assault, crouched motionless on the ground, its cyan eyes growing increasingly violent and impatient. Stop attacking. The young girl cried fearfully, hugging the trembling mouse. Simultaneously, Amanda Waller's hurried commands echoed through each member's communicator, Everyone, cease attacking immediately. If you stop, you might survive. If you continue, you'll definitely die. The three members had no choice but to halt their attacks, knowing that if they did, their lives would be in the hands of the kitten. Why is it there? In the hall of the American higher-ranking official's base, Amanda Waller, equally shocked, clicked on an intelligence file on the screen in front of her. The black kitten in the file image was identical to the mysterious being that had appeared at the scene. Codename, Black Flash. First used on December 23, 2011, Christmas Eve. In downtown New York City. Race, unknown. Currently known abilities, powerful enough to tear apart a muscle car, incredibly fast speeds exceeding the speed of sound, the ability to transform or weaponize its limbs, the ability to manipulate its tentacles to form a massive dungeon, the ability to devour objects far larger than its own size, its roar capable of generating ultrasonic waves, and exceptional defenses capable of ignoring energy beams and heavy artillery bombardments. Battle log, unknown liquid creature dies. Iron Man narrowly escapes death. Danger rating SSS+, a level higher than the Hulk. A new week, and the new book season is almost over. I'm begging for your recommendations and monthly votes. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Task Force X, Cat Boss. In the dark night, nestled in the island rainforest, the Black Captain, the man in red, and the young man whose strange glowing spots had vanished from their bodies, all three, helpless and fearful, lowered their weapons and raised their hands toward the seemingly harmless black kitten. The scene was undoubtedly comical and bizarre. The team members, fearless as ever, even daring to confront the most seasoned prison guards, could never have imagined that, despite their full equipment, they would surrender to a black kitten, barely the size of a palm. With a sudden, nimble leap, the black kitten landed on the shoulders of a young girl, its animal eyes gleaming with a deep blue light as it surveyed them. Under its gaze, none of the team members dared to move, not even to breathe. In the young girl's arms, a black-furred rat, already trembling, finally seemed to lose control. Its eyes rolled back, its limbs twitched, and its small body stiffened before it passed out. A rustling sound. In the nearby rainforest undergrowth, at the end of a massive plow mark, a shark monster, lying face down on the ground like a rice planter, struggled to its feet. It clutched its spiky head and shook itself vigorously, shaking off the dirt from its body, clad only in a pair of large shorts. A bloody, scaly paw mark remained on its face. The shark-like monster quickly glanced at the black kitten and charged forward with its powerful, almost broad limbs. Hey, this isn't good. Just as the other members' eyes twitched, expecting King Shark to continue his attack, King Shark suddenly slid onto the ground and flatteringly called out to the black kitten, "Boss Cat." Everyone on the field nearly fainted. They stared in amazement at the cute and ingratiating King Shark, speechless. So you're such a shark. But then again, not many could make King Shark lower his stance. Its skin was thick and tough, and even a high-caliber bullet at close range would only cause pain, not pierce its skin. Now, a single paw from the black kitten had broken its defense. Besides, sharks are fish, so being restrained by the most powerful cat in history was no match for them. Seeing the team members completely abandon their fighting spirit, the mysterious presence of the black kitten, the 3-in-1 Nian, calmed down a bit, suppressing the rage and murderous intent surging within him. To find Starro, Nian needed to know the situation on the island. Clearly, it wasn't just him who was targeting the island, other forces were also interested in intervening. Just now, Nian had woken the drowning humanoid weasel on the beach, hoping to learn more. However, the weasel couldn't speak and stammered. So, Nian swatted the weasel back into the sea. Sensing the presence of life, it rushed here, only to encounter this strange group. Nian spoke in a raspy, hoarse voice, identity, purpose. Everyone on the scene was stunned. A cat, actually speaking. Although their team also had a shark, it walked on two legs, and aside from its appearance, it was indistinguishable from a human. Thousands of miles away, at the U.S. high-level base, Amanda Waller was also stunned. Her hands rapidly tapped on the keyboard, adding a line to the intelligence file on her computer. Black Flash possesses a high degree of intelligence and can communicate with humans. Waller, what should we do? The black captain whispered into the microcom. Do as it asks. Tell it what it wants to know, Amanda Waller said gravely. Now, your mission is to please it with all your might. Its existence is more significant than Project Starfish. Amanda Waller hadn't finished her words. On the field, the black kitten suddenly raised a paw, and several slender black tentacles, like solidified liquid, shot out at high speed. The tentacles pierced the air and almost simultaneously pierced the micro-devices on the group. Damn it! Damn it! Looking at the complete loss of signal from the surveillance and communication systems, Amanda Waller angrily slammed her hands on the table. A subordinate stepped forward and asked worriedly, Sir, now that the situation has gotten out of control, what should we do next? Cancel the mission, or remotely activate the detonators on the convicted criminals? No need. Amanda Waller took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. She looked at the black kitten's intelligence file and said, Black Flash has appeared in downtown New York City and hunted suspected alien creatures. Now it may be targeting Project Starfish. It may help us eliminate that project. In the rainforest. First, with the approval of Amanda Waller's superior, and the remote monitoring and communication devices destroyed, the black captain of the team had nothing to worry about. He immediately explained to Nian, who took the form of the black kitten, My name is Robert Dubois. We are all lifers from Dream Prison. Due to the special call of high-ranking U.S. official Amanda Waller, we have formed a suicide mission. The euphemistic name is Task Force X. She did not intend to deceive or conceal the highly intelligent black kitten. After all, disobeying Amanda Waller's orders wouldn't necessarily result in death, but disobeying black kitten certainly would. Furthermore, they had little loyalty to the so-called American higher-ranking officials or this mission. Robert tactfully explained what Nian wanted to know, the identities of the group and the purpose of their mission. Soon, Nian had a general understanding of the team. The infiltration team they encountered in the rainforest was called Task Force X. Their team currently consisted of 5 members, most of whom were high-ranking criminals from Gotham City. The black captain, Robert Dubois, codenamed Bloodsport, was a former professional assassin, trained from childhood and skilled in the use of various weapons. He was a near-perfect shooter, having once sent Superman to intensive care with a kryptonite bullet. The man in red, Christopher Smith, codenamed Peacemaker, was a former professional assassin, proficient in using a variety of modern weaponry, skilled in close combat, and a fervent patriot. The young woman, Cleo Cazo, codenamed Ratcatcher II. Able to communicate with mice using special instruments, he was arrested for manipulating them to rob a bank. Abner Corell, a young man with a luminous spot, codenamed Polka Dot Man, was infected with a high-dimensional virus due to a failed experiment, allowing him to use the polka dots in his body to kill people. These 4 are clearly not normal people, each with some lingering transcendence, or perhaps even a foot in the realm of the transcendental. Among them, the non-human shark monster Nanavi is suspected to be a descendant of the ancient Shark King. Zinnian's gaze fell on the Shark King, wondering if this so-called Shark King was related to the sunken Atlantis his aunt had mentioned. However, he was able to withstand the combined power of the 3, and his strength was impressive. He survived a blow. And here's the thing. Task Force X's target is the island nation's secret research facility, Jotunheim, to eliminate the Starfish project operating there. Zinnian instinctively feels that the Starfish project might be connected to Starro, whom Xiaohuang is looking for. Chapter 90 The Unreasonable Cat Boss. In the rainforest, after explaining their origins and purpose, the members of Task Force X gazed at the black kitten with lingering fear, as if awaiting the Grim Reaper's final judgment. Kill them, or let them go? If the former, even a desperate resistance would likely spell their utter destruction. Amidst a silent, horrified silence, Nian, in the form of a 3-in-1 black kitten, suddenly leaped atop Shark King Nanavi's head, lying flat on a spacious, flat couch, its black cat tail gently swaying behind it. The black kitten said coldly, Keep going. So it looks like they were joining the charge. Would that make them invincible? Task Force X was stunned for a moment, then exchanged a glance. As expected of serious criminals, they were incredibly adaptable. They nodded, grabbed their weapons, and continued their journey deeper into the rainforest. Regardless, surviving the cat-shaped terror and continuing the mission was the best outcome for their team. However, the mastermind behind Task Force X, the one who constantly controls their lives, has transformed from high-ranking American Amanda Waller to a harmless black kitten. Shark King Nunavie, far from resisting the black kitten perched atop his head, is delighted like a child, even his steps becoming cautious, as if fearing the cat might bump against him. "Why didn't you summon the rats to attack just now?" Captain Robert, walking at the front of the team, asked curiously, looking at the young girl beside him. "I was planning to summon the rats, but I suddenly realized something." The second-generation rat catcher looked down at the unconscious rat companion in his arms and said with a wry smile, "The moment the cat, the boss cat appeared, all the rats in the surrounding rainforest retreated 5 kilometers. She paused, then said fearfully, "They were instinctively afraid and wary. Forget attacking, they couldn't even get close." Captain Robert glanced at the black kitten not far behind him and sighed heartily, "Although I hate rats, it turns out their instincts are correct." Faced with such an extraordinary being, no matter how many rats came, they wouldn't be enough to bury them. Nian calmly lay on the head of the Shark King and the team. While he didn't know the specifics of this island nation, he was using this special team to explore its situation. It was also because if he engaged in too much physical combat and killing, his rationality would quickly collapse uncontrollably. However, this team seemed to be moving too slowly. Of course, there was nothing he could do about it. Although there were some extraordinary beings in the team, most of them had ordinary physiques. Without transportation, they could only advance on foot. According to Task Force X's plan, they were to penetrate the island's rainforest, locate the local Freedom Force, then travel to the island nation's capital, find the head of the research lab, and infiltrate Jotunheim. Would that take at least 2 or 3 days? A faint cyan glint flickered in Nian's eyes, a hint of impatience. With his current temperament, he was incredibly impatient. He had classes tomorrow. If he returned late, the mistress and maid would be worried. Was there no transportation? Just as Nian was thinking this, a buzzing sound echoed from the nearby night sky. "Take cover." Captain Robert instinctively waved his hand, leading the members of Task Force X into hiding in the bushes. Looking up, they could see a military-style attack helicopter, its propellers roaring as it flew over the nearby rainforest, about 1,200 meters away. It was the rebel army currently controlling the island nation. Unfortunately, the distance between them was too great. At a distance of over 1,000 meters, even a sharpshooter like him, without a sniper rifle, couldn't pose any threat to the helicopter. "Don't expose yourself. Wait for it to leave." Captain Robert had barely finished his words when, in the rear, the black kitten, previously resting peacefully on Shark King Nian's head, suddenly raised its tail and twitched it forward. Its streamline arc resembled a missile, instantly breaking the sound barrier and catapulting towards the helicopter 1,000 meters away. "No way." As the members of Task Force X stared in disbelief, the black tail instantly extended 1,000 meters, like a tentacle reaching for the underside of the helicopter. The dark tentacle suddenly tensed. Without the black kitten exerting any effort, the helicopter froze in the night sky for a split second before being yanked towards them with swift and violent force. "Fuck. Run." Everyone in Task Force X's brains went blank, and with the exception of Shark King, everyone, in terror, fled in all directions. The trinity of Nian extended a pair of cat claws and swung them to his side, unleashing a raging wind. Suddenly, 2 enormous, sharp black sickles sliced through trees within a 10-meter radius, leaving the surrounding rainforest area open and bright. Buzz buzz buzz. Under the powerful pull of the dark tentacles formed from its tail, the military helicopter plummeted diagonally towards Nian's location. Its rapidly spinning spiral blades instantly flattened many branches and leaves in the rainforest. The helicopter was about to crash to the ground. With a swish, 2 more dark tentacles shot out from Nian's back, each swiftly supporting the helicopter's base. Together with the tail tentacles, they formed supports at 3 different locations, stabilizing the helicopter, which weighed over 10 tons. The black kitten, barely larger than a palm, lifted an attack helicopter that was 100 times heavier in both size and weight. This unconventional, eye-popping scene was destined to be unforgettable for everyone present. With a snap, the black kitten, like a toy, dropped the helicopter onto the open ground ahead, causing the surrounding ground to tremble slightly. The helicopter's hatch slowly opened. The rebel soldiers inside the helicopter were stunned and bewildered, unsure of what was happening. Before they could comprehend the situation, several men, armed with guns and axes, rushed in from the rainforest outside the helicopter door like desperate men. Bang, Bang, bang. Puff, puff. The crackle of gunfire and the cacophony of blades slicing through flesh echoed in unison. Don't come near me. The helicopter's interior instantly became a bloody battlefield, with countless rebel soldiers wailing and screaming. The members of Task Force X, previously powerless under Nian's command, suddenly became incredibly ferocious against these ordinary armed soldiers. Captain Robert and the Peacemaker, in particular, showed killing as easy as eating and drinking. In less than half a minute, the mutilated bodies of the soldiers were thrown from the helicopter, staining the surrounding grass red with blood. Soon, the rainforest area returned to silence. Hey, there's a living person here. Captain Robert went deeper into the helicopter cabin and looked down at the person who was wrapped in a large sack in the corner of the floor. Judging from the slightly graceful figure, it seemed to be a woman. Chapter 91 Harley Quinn, the Evil Cat. Under the darkness, the rainforest returned to its stillness. Task Force X, or rather, Captain Robert and the Peacemaker alone, easily dispatched a dozen or so insurgents within the helicopter. Shark King Nanavi wiped his smirk without a trace, resisting the allure of the insurgent corpses on the ground. He remained motionless, as if in a real shark chair. Cat? Boss, there's still a living one here, Captain Robert said as he descended from the helicopter, carrying a large sack containing a human. He addressed the black kitten above Nanavi's head. Suddenly, the woman within the sack writhed her graceful body violently, struggling to free herself from Captain Robert's shoulders and falling to the ground. Several members of Task Force X immediately surrounded them from different directions. As the sack's opening opened, the 3-in-1 black kitten's deep, serene eyes reflected a young girl with twin pigtails dyed in various colors. The twin-tailed girl's fair, delicate face was heavily adorned with clown makeup. A black, robotic necklace clasped around her slender neck like a pet's. She wore a vest jacket that revealed her voluptuous navel and slim waist. Her pert hips were covered only by a pair of red shorts. Her legs were tightly encased in black fishnet stockings, and she wore high-top, high-heeled leather boots. Her outfit was a decidedly unconventional one. Even more striking was the black tattoos of English, playing cards, and hearts on her exposed arms, thighs, and even below her navel, giving her an air of extreme madness and sensuality. The twin-tailed girl emerged from the sack, slapping her cheek in bewilderment as she glanced around at the people surrounding her. Harley Quinn, why are you here? Captain Robert, the Peacemaker, and others from Task Force X were surprised, then instantly recognized the girl. After all, this seemingly fragile, non-mainstream girl is a highly renowned criminal in Gotham City, even within the prison of Sweet Dreams. Harley Quinn, codenamed Harley Quinn. Finally, I meet a living acquaintance. Harley Quinn abruptly stood up from the ground, greeting everyone with a familiar air. Then, with a sigh, she spread her hands and said, I was on another X-Force team. Except for me, everyone else died tragically. Although she said this, it was unclear whether she was truly sad or upset. Of course. The codename Harley Quinn itself carries with it an erratic and unpredictable personality. By the way, how did you get this thing down from the sky? Shoot it down? Who among you is such a good shot? Harley blinked, gazing at the military helicopter perched on the rainforest floor nearby. Well, the members of Task Force X weren't sure what to say, their gazes fixed on one spot. Is that the shark-like giant? I didn't expect you to be so formidable. Harley exclaimed in admiration, approaching King Shark and pounding Nunavi's rock-hard abs with her fist. Huh? A cat? You're bringing a cat with you on your team mission. Wait. Harley, you've got it wrong. The other members gasped at this. But they soon realized that King Cat didn't seem angry. Nian, observing the nearby girl's clown makeup, felt a sense of strangeness and dissonance. His first impression of Harley Quinn wasn't a favorable one. A criminal with a pathological or even mental condition, even a young woman in her early 20s, would be something he wouldn't normally associate with. However, Nian wasn't acting like an ordinary person right now, he was in a 3-in-1 state. Compared to pathology, extremes, and evil, who could rival Nian, the Venom symbiote and the Devourer combined? Right now, he was treading a tightrope with his dwindling humanity and rationality, trying to keep from falling into an endless abyss of darkness. Therefore, Harley Quinn, a morbid and insane fusion, perfectly matched Nian's taste. Of course, this wasn't about the opposite sex, but about pets. In Nian's eyes, she was a better pet than Nala, the Shark King. So, he tolerated her pet's flattery and even her fuss. He really wanted to lock her up in a dark, deserted hut. Wait? The black kitten's face twisted in a hideous expression. His humanity had nearly been pushed past its limit, plunging him into endless darkness and evil. Ugh! Harley Quinn, unaware of Nian's thoughts, rubbed the black kitten against her. Nian felt his vision go black, and his body sank into a soft, dark hut. The members of Task Force X, watching the kitten tucked into its jacket, all gulped in agreement. "Ah, I was here first," Nunavi, the Shark King, said, a bit displeased and unhappy, his small eyes gazing at Harley Quinn with resentment. "Well, now that we've captured the enemy's military helicopter, we can head straight to the capital." Captain Robert coughed softly, realizing why Cat Boss Nian hadn't simply destroyed the helicopter. "Can you fly a helicopter?" the second-generation Mauser asked, somewhat puzzled. "A few times," Captain Robert patted his chest confidently. The morning light, the sky a hazy white, rose. In the island nation of Cadamidus, in the capital city, the rebel leader's residence. The mansion's top-floor terrace was spacious, suitable for helicopter landings. Even during the day, numerous rebel soldiers were stationed there. At that moment, a humming sound echoed from the distant sky as a local military helicopter approached. "They're back." Immediately, a rebel soldier stepped forward, picked up a small flag, and waved it from the mansion's terrace, attempting to command a helicopter to land. However, the helicopter, approaching within 100 meters, not only failed to slow down, but instead suddenly lurched and crashed into them. Gideon's characters have added popular supporting characters, Ancient One and Harley. Note that they're supporting characters. If you like any of these characters, please add a picture and give a daily like to show your support. Currently, the most popular female characters are Diana, Gwen, and Kara. Chapter 92, Extreme Beauty and Violence. Above the mansion. Watching the military helicopter plummet towards the mansion's open-air terrace, the rebel soldiers on duty were stunned for a second or two, then scattered in panic. As for the helicopter that was careening down, from within the cabin, the voices of both men and women could be heard shouting and cursing. "Damn! Didn't you say you've flown it a few times?" "Yes, a few times, in the simulator." There was a noticeable silence in the cabin. "Jump out," someone said helplessly. Just before the helicopter slanted down onto the rooftop, 5 or 6 people jumped from either side of the cabin. 2 of them were white girls dressed strangely. One held an unconscious black-haired rat, the other a black kitten tucked to her chest. A shark-like monster behind them jumped down right after them, each supporting their backs in midair with its broad blue-white hands. The military helicopter continued its acceleration, swooping down from the sky and crashing diagonally onto the mansion's rooftop. Its high-speed propellers swept past the rooftop, instantly shredding the bodies of several soldiers who hadn't had time to flee, unleashing a bloody hail of blood. With a clatter and a clatter, the metal fuselage collided with the floor, sending sparks flying. The helicopter slid across the wide-open terrace, then, driven by its immense momentum, slammed into the adjacent building, exploding with a roar and a massive, crimson fireball. Boom! The immense flames and blast of air rippled outward, visible not only to the officers and soldiers within the mansion, but also to city dwellers kilometers away. Captain Robert performed a tactical roll, landing on the charred, shattered rooftop. He watched the soldiers pouring out of the mansion below. "This time, we're completely exposed," he said helplessly. He had originally planned to infiltrate the city through the jungle, then locate the staff and enter the research institute. Instead, thanks to the black kitten, he had arrived directly from the starting point to the near end of the mission. What once took 2 or 3 days to travel had been reduced to just 1 or 2 hours. The peacemaker, who had landed nearby, surveyed the numerous soldiers below, whipped out an axe, and said coldly, "Why bother? Just kill them all." "That's true," Captain Robert shrugged nonchalantly, raising his large, black rifle. Elsewhere, Shark King Nanavi landed first in the mansion's ground floor courtyard, his footsteps digging into the grass. He lifted and pushed upward, allowing the second-generation Mauser Cleo Kazo and Harley Quinn to land safely. As for the black kitten on Harley's chest, not only would it be impervious to damage from a direct fall, but now it had its own cushioning and protective shield. The 3-in-1 Nian remained on Harley's body, only a small hood peeking out from the bodice of her jacket. Then, a snap. Abner Corell, the young man covered in light spots, also known as the Polka Dot Man, plummeted from the sky into the fountain beside the lawn, sending a cascade of water crashing down before floating face down in the water. Dead. Can we eat him like this? Shark King Nanavi scratched his head in a daze, gazing at the polka dot man's corpse in the pool. He's poisonous. Better not eat him. It'll affect your intelligence. Cleocazo, the second-generation rat catcher, patted Nanavi's shoulder and offered a soothing reassurance. Da-da-da. Gunfire rang out from the rooftops and other parts of the mansion, evidently signaling that the rebels had engaged Captain Robert and his men. There's an intruder on the rooftop. And in the courtyard. Several rebel soldiers, standing below the mansion courtyard, cried out in alarm, their weapons drawn, charging towards the Task Force X members led by Nian. Food. Shark King Nanavi's eyes flashed with fire as he charged directly at the rebel soldiers. Several bullets landed almost simultaneously on his 2-meter-tall shark body, but they couldn't penetrate the shark's blue-white skin, only slightly slowing his advance. Bang! Shark King Nanavi spread his arms to his sides, his body like a small, heavily armored tank in the shape of a shark, charging at the terrified armed soldiers, pushing them through the wall behind him, and crashing into the mansion's interior with a bloody splatter. Seeing this, Cleocazo, the second-generation rat catcher, said to Harley Quinn, I can't get too close to you, or I won't be able to fully utilize my abilities. Whatever, Harley Quinn chuckled nonchalantly. She took a few steps forward, her puffed chest swaying with the kitten, and picked up a fallen gun. Then I'll team up with the kitten. Well, good luck, the second-generation rat catcher paused, glancing at the kitten on Harley Quinn's chest before hurriedly leaving with the still drowsy rat. Harley, accompanied by Nian, who appeared in the form of a black kitten, climbed through the window without hesitation. The first-floor hallway of the mansion was covered in blood and bullet holes, but no rebel bodies were found. It was clear that King Shark had nearly finished them off. Holding her gun, Harley showed no fear, but instead happily rushed up the spiral staircase to the second floor. As she reached the intersection, she encountered a group of rebel soldiers. The rebel soldiers were stunned for a moment upon seeing Harley, clad in clown makeup and atypical attire. The next moment, their bodies were riddled with a raging barrage of steel. Blood splattered, flesh flew everywhere. Faster, more brutal, more frantic than anyone else. Harley Quinn's lips curled upward in delight, savoring the exhilaration of the slaughter, her form radiating both ultimate beauty and violence. Her high-heeled boots trampled over mangled corpses as she made her way through the corridor. Entering the main hall on the second floor, Harley found only one person left, a tall man in a military uniform adorned with insignias. It was General Silvio Luna, the new leader of the island nation and the true power behind the rebels. Silvio, clutching a large, gold-studded pistol, dropped it upon seeing Harley Quinn enter the hall. Unable to contain his excitement, he exclaimed, Harley Quinn, I've admired you for a long time. Really? Harley blinked. Of course, look. Silvio, seemingly oblivious to his current situation, gestured to a red dress hanging on a hanger in the hall. I prepared this for you. I didn't expect to find you here. Bang! A gunshot rang out. A clear bullet hole appeared on Silvio's forehead. He stared blankly at Harley, gun in hand, and instantly collapsed backward, lifeless. An admirer, huh? You're going to die here today anyway, so why not die by my hands sooner rather than later? Harley smiled matter-of-factly, discarding the empty gun and replacing it with a gold-encrusted, high-caliber pistol. That dress looks pretty nice, though. Harley's eyes sparkled as she gazed at the hanging red dress. She stepped forward, set the high-caliber pistol aside, and began to remove her stained shirt. A soft zipper unzipped, and the garment slid down her straight legs. Nian, in the form of a black kitten, leaped from the chest and landed on a nearby table. Its animal eyes, glowing with a faint cyanlight, gazed silently forward. As her jacket, short shorts, and fishnet stockings fell to the ground, the graceful and voluptuous figure of Harley Quinn was revealed. She didn't shy away. The trinity of Nian simply gazed admiringly, as if she were a slightly more attractive humanoid pet. Dividing line, a highly recommended Marvel fanfiction, My Infinite Marvel Card Draw. This was written by the author 2 years ago. It was a wildly popular, pure, refreshing novel, appearing on Kitty and Splash Screen and repeatedly topping the light novel bestseller list. I'm sure many people have read it, but those who haven't should check it out. The writing was a bit immature at the time, and the post-production wasn't well done, so please be kind. Chapter 93, Brand, Giant Starfish. In the second-floor main hall of the leader's residence, the rebel leader, General Silvio, lay dead on the polished floor. Nian, in the form of a 3-in-1 black kitten, crouched quietly on a nearby table, suppressing his inner violence and evil. He watched the delicate white body with erotic tattoos lightly enveloped in a vibrant red dress. He nearly felt the urge to use his tentacles to hang her up and slaughter her. Perhaps tempted by the negative atmosphere of the slaughter, Nian felt that even though he hadn't done much, his inner mind and thoughts were becoming increasingly unbalanced. He had to find Staro, the one the little emperor was looking for, and get out of here. Nian's eyes unconsciously fell on Harley again. Wait, that new red dress looks a little too clean. This won't do. As Harley Quinn finished changing, the black kitten suddenly leaped forward, its paws, slick with black slime, patting the girl's chest like a breast. Nian left distinct cat-like paw prints on Harley's flawless, slender neck and the firm, soft part of her red dress, as if branding his own unique mark. The black cat's claw mark stained the girl's fair skin and stained her pristine red dress, exuding a hint of evil. This is much more pleasant. A pet should behave like a pet. Nian thought, his inner darkness magnified. Harley, assuming the black marks were merely dirt, laughed without disdain, embracing the black kitten again. At that moment, the sounds of gunfire and fighting from the rooftops, downstairs, and even in the courtyard of the mansion all fell silent. Harley picked up the gold-studded, large-caliber pistol and headed downstairs with a black kitten. Soon, in the courtyard, strewn with corpses, they encountered Captain Robert, the peacemaker, dressed in black and red. Crunch, crunch. Shark King, his body covered in white bullet holes, patted his slightly bulging blue-white belly and walked out, joining the three outside. Where are the other two? Captain Robert asked, puzzled, as he gazed at the quiet interior of the mansion. One is over there. He died while jumping from a helicopter. Harley pointed to a young man whose body was half-surfaced in the fountain. All right. Captain Robert was speechless for a moment. This was still his fault. The polka dot man was considered a freak among Task Force X members, a human with tangible supernormal abilities. Unfortunately, due to the infection of a higher dimensional virus, his physical constitution was weaker than that of an average person. Even if he hadn't died from the helicopter jump, he would likely die accidentally. Wait, where's Cleocaso? Captain Robert was more worried about his second-generation rat catcher like his daughter than the polka dot man, whom he didn't have much of a favorable impression of. Here. Without waiting for Harley's response, a voice rang out from outside the mansion's gate. Second-generation mousetrap Cleocaso entered, holding a bald scientist hostage. Her left hand tightly grasped the collar of the man's dark shirt, her right hand holding a pistol pressed against his bald forehead, which was covered with instruments and tubes. A black-furred rat gnashed its teeth threateningly at the bald scientist's neck. He was trying to escape from the mansion, but I caught him, the second-generation mousetrap said. However, as the second-generation mousetrap approached the gate and approached Harley, who was carrying a black kitten, the black-furred rat's eyes suddenly widened, its body stiffened, and it fell unconscious, its small body falling from the scientist's neck. Everyone. The second-generation mousetrap quickly secured a rat in her hand again, while Captain Robert took charge of the bald scientist. You are Gaius Graves, the thinker, right? Research director of the Starfish Project. Captain Robert, gun in hand, glared coldly at the bald scientist. The thinker shouted angrily, damn it. You killed General Silvio. His right-hand man, now General Matteo Su, will never let you go. We don't care, and we have no choice. Captain Robert glanced at the black kitten on Harley's body, patted the thinker's face, and said, I want you to lead us into Jotunheim. Jotunheim. The thinker's eyes widened. At the name, a flicker of fear and fanaticism crossed his face. In the capital city of Codamadus, a research institute and factory shaped like a giant chimney stood. This was Jotunheim, the island nation's greatest secret for many years, the location of the Starfish Project, and the sole target of Task Force X's cleanup mission. The institute was protected by a large iron gate and an electric fence, with a dozen heavily armed rebel soldiers standing guard. Bang! Suddenly, a modified van suddenly forced its way through the closed iron gate. Bang! 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 The van's doors opened simultaneously, and the members of Task Force X unleashed a barrage of fire, instantly reducing over a dozen soldiers to pulp. Open the door. Captain Robert forcibly dragged the thinker out of the van and slammed his face into the facial scanner at the Institute's main entrance. The main entrance swung open, and the remaining members of Task Force X filed in. Inside were Jotunheim researchers, including the lab director, now hostage. They all made way in panic, leading directly to the top floor of the Jotunheim Institute. Upon entering the most secure laboratory, all members of Task Force X froze in shock, a chilling feeling washing over them. Against one wall of the Jotunheim laboratory, two men, serving as experimental subjects, were chained to the equipment. They struggled like drowning men, their faces clinging to a strange starfish, covering their eyes, mouths, and noses. At this moment, Nian, who had been clinging to Harley like an ordinary black kitten, leaped to the ground, his dark blue eyes gazing at the starfish attached to the experimental subject. With the help of Task Force X and the others, they had successfully reached Jotunheim. It must be said that everything went very smoothly. "Is this the stero you're looking for?" Nian mentally communicated to the devourer cub. "Little Emperor, meow." "What do you mean?" Nian didn't quite understand. The devourer cub, "Little Emperor," replied, "No, but kind of." No meant that the starfish attached to the experimental subject weren't stero. Yes probably meant. Just as the 3-in-1 Nian was thinking this, at that moment, deep inside the laboratory, on a wall covered mostly with transparent protective glass, an enormous suction tentacle slammed against the protective glass window from within. The entire facility trembled slightly. What the hell is that? Even the members of Task Force X, who had witnessed countless darkness and bloodshed, couldn't help but stare wide-eyed with fear. After the giant suction tentacle slid down, one could see through the glass window that inside was a giant starfish monster imprisoned. The monster was almost 2/3 the size of the entire 30-meter-high research institute. Chapter 94, Nian's strike breaks the cage. In New York, at the Stark Industries headquarters, "Sir, the anti-black flash armor is ready." The gentle, concise voice of the artificial intelligence Jarvis echoed from the main hall on the top floor. "Arrange them, and get ready to go." Tony Stark's eyes gleamed, and he couldn't help but clench his fists. Last time, facing the Black Flash, an unidentified creature resembling a black kitten, the Mark Iron suit was completely defenseless and was even exiled to an unknown and mysterious dimension, experiencing an unprecedented horror. Tony Stark was deeply troubled by this incident, waking up at night to the sound of the black cat's meow. Therefore, during the past week of overnight programming and rushing to create the Anti-Armor series, the Anti-Black Flash even took the top spot, surpassing the Anti-Hulk, and was ranked first in the Anti-Armor series. The Anti-Armor is not an upgraded version of the conventional Mark armor, but a strategic armor tailored to confront and defeat specific powerful supernatural beings. "This time, I'll show you my strength. I'll capture you and show you what kind of creature you are," Tony Stark muttered to himself, his face brimming with confidence. At this moment, Jarvis very considerately inquired, "Sir, would you like to go through the formalities and record a personal video? Alternatively, Miss Pepper is downstairs, you can contact her to come up." "Jarvis," Tony Stark's smile faded, and he raised his brow. "I don't appreciate that joke. Sorry." Gazing upon the gigantic, bizarre starfish monster in prison within the facility, the members of Task Force X were stunned. "Look how beautiful it is." The thinker, gazing enthusiastically at the giant starfish within the glass window, spoke with barely concealed excitement. "I've been studying it for over 20 years. Its name is Stero, an alien species that can control and devour human energy by spawning fragments, thereby strengthening itself." As the thinker spoke, the imprisoned giant starfish, Stero, its equally gigantic single eye glaring angrily at him, slammed one of its sucker-like tentacle against a glass window. Over 20 years? Nian caught a piercing glimpse of something deeply jarring. Little Emperor was just a young metamorphosis beast, and Stero had been imprisoned in Jotunheim for 20 years. So, how did Little Emperor know Stero, and why did he want to find him? Nian was puzzled at the moment, and Little Emperor couldn't explain it. Perhaps, only through Stero could he understand the secret behind it. "Why did you undertake the Inhumane Starfish project? Do you want to use its power to harm the world?" The second-generation mousetrap couldn't help but ask. "Ho ha ho ha." The thinker suddenly laughed manically and sneered. 22 years ago, senior U.S. government officials captured this alien species in outer space and transferred it to this island nation, specifically to build this research institute called Jotunheim. Many people were shocked when they heard this. The thinker continued confidently, yes. The American government that's sending you to clean up Project Starfish is the same force behind the original human experiments and alien research I was given, and the experiment on this alien species. It's just that, due to changes in government over the years, they're trying to clean up their mess and avoid admitting their past crimes. Upon hearing the thinker's negative comments about the US, the peacemaker from Task Force X grew anxious. You're talking nonsense. Don't believe him, he's a lunatic. You don't believe him. The thinker chuckled, pointing to a computer in the lab. You can take the chip containing the archived data. It contains all the evidence of US involvement in the project over the years. Perhaps that's what the US brass really wants you to clean up. Harley, eager for chaos, stepped forward and took the chip from the computer. Give it to me. The peacemaker suddenly stepped forward, extending his hand domineeringly towards Harley. You didn't believe it, did you? Why are you so concerned about it now? Harley chuckled. Whether it's true or not, for the sake of world peace, I will destroy it right here. The peacemaker stood firm and declared coldly. Calm down, everyone. Captain Robert and the second-generation Mousecatcher tried to persuade them, but no one in the lab noticed. Meanwhile, the black kitten had reached the edge of the glass window. Through the thick protective glass, the 3-in-1 Nian gazed intently at the massive starfish monster within, the size of a building. So, you want to get out, right? The black kitten gave a vicious, sinister grin and suddenly raised a paw. What does that cat want to do? The thinker was the first to notice, murmuring in confusion as he looked at the black kitten. His words brought the X-Force members to their attention. With the exception of Harley, who was unaware of the situation, the minds of the other members, including Captain Robert, went blank. As if to confirm their thoughts, Nian, in the form of the 3-in-1 black kitten, suddenly swung his tiny paw, landing on the protective glass window in front of him. Then come out. Bang! Just one paw. The specially thickened glass window, impervious even to sniper bullets, exploded with dozens of cracks, centered around the tiny black cat's paw, that spread outward, spreading across the entire glass wall. Hey, no way. How is this possible? The thinker's face was filled with shock as he watched this extraordinary scene that completely shattered his understanding. Then, boundless fear surged over him like a tide. The alien monster, sterile, imprisoned for over 20 years, was about to reappear in this world. In New York, at SHIELD headquarters. Inside his top-floor office, SHIELD. Director Nick Fury was sorting through the documents in his drawer. Lately, he had been dealing with the complex aftermath of the Battle of New York. As if noticing something, Nick Fury's expression suddenly shifted, and he pulled a photograph from the drawer. As his single, piercing eye rested on the picture, his usually stern expression softened. It was a group photo. In it was a tall, black young man, similar in appearance to himself, with healthy eyes. Next to him was a beautiful blonde woman wearing a strange protective suit. The photo's background was atop a spaceship with a distinctly alien feel. Nearby, on the ground, lay a grown orange cat and, standing next to it, a strange, palm-sized starfish. Has it been over 20 years? Nick Fury's dark face flickered with nostalgia, but it quickly faded as he tucked the photo back into a file. That was his goddess, no longer here, and his lost youth. P-Wire recommends a friend's book. I'm an editor at Marvel. Synopsis. Script after script evolves from fantasy into reality, and from then on, the world becomes ever more unique. Chapter 95 The 3-in-1 Evil Curse. Inside the Jotunheim Research Institute's laboratory, the thinker watched as the glass wall shattered by a single blow from the black kitten like Nian. As if anticipating his own fate, the thinker muttered in fear, No, don't kill me. I don't want to die here. I was wrong. Please, don't. The next moment, a giant starfish tentacle struck the cracked glass wall from the inside out, easily shattering it into countless shards. The tentacle swiftly passed over the crouching black kitten, its front end encircling Gaius Graves, the thinker, in the laboratory. With an agonizing wail, the thinker was dragged violently into the Institute's sealed confinement chamber. From that moment on, the thinker's mind was officially lost. Two giant starfish tentacles landed on either side of the shattered wall, their force sending cracks crisscrossing along the building's solid walls. At that moment, the entire facility shook violently. The ceiling and floor of the lab split open like spider webs, sending countless rubble and dust scattering throughout the interior. Get out of here. The remaining members of Task Force X's faces dropped, and they all turned and fled the collapsing lab. Harley Quinn even glanced back. Deep within the lab, beneath the collapsed floor, lay the black kitten, still calmly in its place. Its eyes, blazing like embers of a dark blue flame, seemed to revel in the crumbling structure. Outside the Jotunheim Research Institute, vehicles of the local armed forces arrived one after another. Hundreds of rebel soldiers quickly disembarked, surrounding the facility 3 times. Leader Silvio had been killed, and the Jotunheim Research Institute had been invaded. General Matteosu was clearly filled with rage. Later. Whatever appears, shoot them on the spot. General Matteosu's beard twitched as he declared with a cold, commanding presence. Yes, General. The fully armed rebels responded in unison. Just then, a boom. The earth trembled, and startling cracks appeared on the outer wall of the Jotunheim Research Institute, ushering in a complete collapse. Layer upon layer of corridors and laboratories within the institute shattered and collapsed. The remaining members of Task Force X fled in all directions, either leaping to sections of the building that hadn't collapsed or falling along the shattered floor, each demonstrating their extraordinary escape skills. Just before their section of the building tilted completely, Harley leaped onto a relatively intact structure. However, before she could rise from the shaking, slightly tilted floor, a pair of black leather boots suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. "Give me the chip," the Peacemaker, wearing a helmet and a red jacket, said, looking down at Harley Quinn, who lay prone on the ground before him. "Smith, you're truly stubborn. Even at this juncture, you're still trying to clean up the mess for the US government." Harley couldn't help but spit out a mocking expression, her delicate clown makeup revealing a hint of derision. "No matter what, even if it costs me my life, I will completely eradicate this threat to world peace." The Peacemaker, expressionless, watched Harley trying to get up. He suddenly thrust out his right hand and grasped the girl's neck. Ouch! Harley grasped at the man's fingers, but it was impossible to pry them apart. She struggled terribly, breathless. "Hurry, give me the chip. Otherwise, you'll die here." Like a cruel machine following its commands, the Peacemaker stared at Harley with icy eyes. However, neither of them noticed. The moment the Peacemaker touched Harley's body, it seemed as if some supernatural, sinister mechanism had been triggered. The black, strawberry-like cat's paw mark on the side of Harley's neck mysteriously faded from the girl's fair skin, then reappeared right where the Peacemaker's hand was gripping her neck. Swish! Countless invisible dark tentacles, smaller than the smallest needle, rose from the black cat's paw mark. The Peacemaker felt a pain in his right palm and instinctively pulled back his grip from the girl's neck. Looking down, he was shocked to see his bloodied palm, as if pierced by countless tiny needles. Furthermore, an unknown dark liquid seeped through the wounds, like some kind of nerve venom, rapidly spreading through his veins along his right arm, spreading throughout his body at a visible speed. "What did you do to me?" The Peacemaker felt inexplicably short of breath, as if he were having a heart attack. His bloodshot eyes glared at Harley in horror, then his body stiffened and collapsed, tumbling down the broken floor. What just happened? Harley blinked in confusion as she watched the Peacemaker, who had inexplicably let go and fallen, return to her original position on the side of her neck. The mark returned with uninterrupted silence, like a new tattoo on Harley's body. Harley was unaware of this. This cat's paw mark not only carried the extraordinary properties of a wound inflicted by the Devourer's claws, permanently unhealable, but also carried the unique tentacles and venom of the symbiote itself. This mark, indelible for a lifetime, could only be borne by the 3-in-1 Nian. It was also an eternal and sinister curse. Boom. The rebel soldiers surrounding Jotunheim were stunned, looking up at the 20-meter-tall, gigantic starfish monster emerging from the now crumbling research facility. The general, horrified, shouted, "What are you standing there for? Shoot!" Instantly, a torrent of steel, a convergence of bullets, rained down upon the giant starfish within the building. The starfish, in pain, suddenly raised its suction-cupped hands, and from its vibrantly colored tentacles, a dense stream of tiny starfish, like bubbles, erupted. These tiny, palm-sized starfish floated in the air, blanketing the sky and landing precisely on the heads of the rebel soldiers, their 5-clawed suction cups clinging tightly to their faces, eyes, mouths, and noses. Unable to utter a single cry of pain, the rebels collapsed like wheat in autumn. Their revenge had barely begun, And it was over. It's over. General Matthias stared at the horrific scene, completely stunned. He was soon sucked in by one of the starfish, its energy draining away. Then, with a whoosh, a small black shadow streaked through the air and landed atop the oversized starfish. It was a small black kitten. Let's talk, Pada. Oh, no, Staro. The 3-in-1 Xinian said hoarsely. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, The Devouring King, Tylin. Gulu. The central eye of the giant starfish monster, Staro, glanced upward, gazing at the tiny creature perched atop it. What are you talking about? Staro was clearly seething with rage, but perhaps realizing it was Xinian who had helped him break free from the prison of the research institute, he nonetheless responded. His response, like a thought, appeared out of thin air within the trinity of Xinian's mind. Do you recognize me? I'm the element devourer. Xinian's cold words hadn't finished when, bang! One of Staro's massive tentacles suddenly slashed toward his head. Xinian flashed through the air like a tiny black lightning bolt, dodging with incredible speed and appearing above the giant tentacle. Don't mention element devourer. This seemed to add fuel to Staro's already bizarre rage. He flung the black kitten, perched on his starfish tentacle, forward. This city is mine. Leave it, and I won't harm you. At the same time, perhaps absorbing the energy of the surrounding rebel soldiers, Staro's already enormous form expanded even further, resembling a 30-meter-tall starfish-shaped mountain, completely shattering the original research institute's building into rubble and rubble. In the dust that filled Staro's wake, several figures, both male and female, fled stealthily. In the modern city sky of the island nation of Kodamatis, the 3-in-1 Xinian, flung out like a cannonball, his dark cat-like body suddenly expanded tenfold, like a cat-shaped balloon forcibly suspended 100 meters in the air. Xinian instinctively sensed a misunderstanding between him and Staro. However, his humanity, now distorted by darkness and evil, was losing its rationality and becoming increasingly impatient. Throw me away, huh? The black kitten suddenly gave a sinister grin, its front paws extending forward like a sticky dark liquid, quickly extending and grasping Staro's body from a distance. And then, Xinian, like a black cannonball, instantly pierced the sound barrier, streaking through the sky above Daylight City at breakneck speed, slamming fiercely into Staro's forehead. Bang! A gust of air erupted, a powerful force unleashed by the creature's extraordinary physique. The members of Task Force X, who had escaped 100 meters away, watched with wide eyes as a mountain-sized starfish monster was knocked to the ground by a black kitten, slightly larger than a palm. Staro fell backward in pain, his immense size causing the ground to tremble and shake. You want to be my enemy too, huh? Then, devour me. Staro's furious thoughts raged through the air. Then, the densely packed, colorful miniature starfish, along with the jellyfish-like spherical creatures that had split from Staro's body, swarmed towards Xinian. In less than a second, the triad of Xinian, still in midair, was engulfed by the multicolored jellyfish, transforming it into a sphere twice or three times its size. Then, more small starfish formed, layering 3 circles within and 3 circles outside, forming a massive sphere with a radius of 5 meters. 100 meters away, the battle unfolded. Boss Cat, this is bad. Seeing this, his eyes narrowed. Shark King Nanavi, his chubby and scarred body, spoke nervously and fearfully. Those jellyfish balls have a very powerful devouring ability. My shark skin was easily gnawed through. Fortunately, there weren't that many attacking me, or else I would have been eaten by them. The remaining members of Task Force X grew nervous. They preferred the black kitten's victory to Staro's. Harley instinctively reached out and touched the black cat's paw mark on her neck. Cleo, can you send out the rat pack? Captain Robert, even terrified of rats, couldn't help but ask the girl beside him. However, the others quickly noticed. On the shoulder of Cleo, the second-generation mouse catcher, the black-furred rat had regained consciousness, but was still trembling with fear. That cat is still there, Cleo said fearfully, gazing towards the ruins of Jotunheim. Still, the rats have retreated even further than before. Above the ruins, in the air, a dazzling sphere of jellyfish and starfish paused for a few seconds before, with a slight tremor, suddenly bursting open from the inside out. Puff! Countless dark, sharp, armed tentacles emerged from the sphere's core, piercing each of the bubble-like fragments. A powerful, sinister aura permeated the air. Whoosh! A small black lightning bolt burst forth from within, landing once again above Stero's head. However, this time, Nian was far less polite than before. The black kitten suddenly opened its bloody maw and, biting the starfish's paw above Stero, bit like a gnaw. At the same time, countless dark tentacles extended from its body, wrapping around the mountain-sized starfish like ropes. Who devours whom? Roles reversed. At this moment, the black kitten's mouth transformed into a bottomless black hole. The powerful suction of the black hole, combined with the pull of the tentacles, swallowed Stero, who was hundreds of times larger than itself. How is this possible? So you really are the devourer? Stero's final thought of doubt and shock emerged. Before he could resist, the 30-meter-tall starfish was swallowed by the cat's mouth. Nian landed nimbly on the ruins, slowly exhaling, suppressing the restless evil and violence within him. The devourer's inner space is akin to a miniature universe. Though it's tiny, it's actually vaster than a galaxy. Nian, with forethought, plunged Stero into the relatively safe and stable middle layer of the devourer dimension and moved the cosmic cube and gem scepter to the deepest depths of the devourer dimension. As for the unstable chaotic bottom layer of the devourer dimension, where are the corpses of aliens and the wreckage of warships floating? Wait! A sudden flash of inspiration struck Nian. The little emperor was only a young element devourer. When had he ever devoured so many alien beings? Furthermore, why did it recognize and instinctively seek out Stero, who had been imprisoned in Jotunheim over 20 years earlier? Could it be that? Before the Trinity Nian could ponder further, at the edge of the azure sky on the island side, a faint light flickered, accompanied by a sound barrier breaking trajectory. An iron figure approached from afar. Nearing the city, the platinum-colored figure plummeted, finally landing with a clang directly in front of Nian. Chapter 97 Iron Man, I'm okay again. Watching from a distance of 100 meters, they watched as the mountain-like starfish Stero, towering above the ruins of Jotunheim, was devoured in the blink of an eye by a mysterious entity resembling a black kitten. The few surviving members of Task Force X, Captain Bloodsport Robert, second-generation Mousicatcher Cleo Kazo, Harley Quinn, and King Shark Nunavie, all expressed astonishment. Clearly, they had underestimated the power of the Triads Nian. But before they could even breathe a sigh of relief, Task Force X saw Iron Man plummet from the sky into the fray. Although Iron Man's armor had been painted platinum and its design differed from his world-famous standard, the cold, metallic sheen of the steel armor, along with the bright white light emanating from his chest and square eye sockets, unmistakably revealed his unique superhero identity, Iron Man, Tony Stark. With a mortal body and a heart of steel, he rose to fame in one battle, the Eternal God of New York. Another heavyweight has arrived, Captain Robert said, surveying the battlefield and taking a deep breath. Isn't he coming for us? Cleo asked nervously. Harley chuckled, shrugged, and said self-deprecatingly, don't worry. We're probably not worthy of his attention yet. He's probably after that adorable black kitten. Cute. The others looked at her with skeptical eyes. It's a shame it's just a cat. But even if it's a cat, as long as there's love, there's nothing wrong, right? Harley stuck out her tongue and licked her sensual, dark red lips. Chew, chew. Shark King Nunavie continued to grind his teeth. The original site of Jotunheim, above a pile of rubble and scrap metal. Excellent. You haven't left yet, otherwise my anti-black flash armor would be wasted. Iron Man slowly stood up from his one-in-need stance. In the bright sunlight, the white and gold armor, with its lightning patterns, gleamed with a cold arc of light. Nian, in the form of a black kitten, gazed at Iron Man with a sullen gaze. His eyes, once radiant with a deep blue glow, faded into half-white void. While still the dominant entity within the Trinity, he was increasingly losing his human emotions and inner rationality. Now that he had found the target of his journey, Stero, Nian had originally intended to evacuate the island nation and return to Washington, but faced with Iron Man's provocation, how could his fiery temper resist? If you don't accept, then come and fight. Without further ado, Nian suddenly grinned, a grin that resembled a sly grin. The next moment, the floor beneath the black kitten's feet shattered. The dark, assembly line like cat's body, shimmering with wisps of afterimage, burst through the air and whipped up a gust of wind as it transformed into a bolt of black lightning, hurtling straight towards Iron Man. Iron Man, clad in the anti-Black Flash armor, was confident, but he knew Black Flash was no easy opponent. So, the moment Nian moved, his mind and body tensed to an unprecedented level. Jarvis, full engine power. Yes, sir. Before the AI Jarvis could finish his words, the black lightning bolt approached. Black Kitten swung its dark claws at Iron Man. In the nick of time, Iron Man's armor's neck, arms, waist, legs, feet, and even his palms erupted from its engines, blasting a stream of searing heat. Iron Man, standing on the ground, suddenly accelerated upward, his vision blurring in the sunlight as he barely dodged Black Kitten's incredibly fast and powerful attack. That's right. To cope with Black Flash, which could easily break the speed of sound, Tony Stark specifically sought to maximize the armor's explosive power and speed, allowing anti-Black Flash to operate at full engine power for extended periods of time. Of course. This meant the anti-Black Flash armor consumed an astonishing amount of energy per second. Even the small nuclear reactor on its body couldn't sustain the anti-Black Flash in combat for more than 10 minutes. Furthermore, the anti-Black Flash armor's components wore out over 10 times more than conventional armor. This armor, costing hundreds of millions of dollars to build, was effectively a disposable piece of equipment, destined for recycling after a single battle. This was true Krypton gold, becoming stronger. I can do it. Iron Man dodged the Black Kitten slap and swooped down, delivering a powerful punch with his engine-powered armor. Snap! The black tail behind Nian reacted with incredible speed, yanking upwards. The iron fist clashed with the dark tail, and Iron Man, the attacker, was sent flying. Sure enough, even if I can match speed, the power is still too far behind. Iron Man wasn't surprised. His armored punch was just a feint. His true countermeasure was, with a woohoo sound. A section of the outer shell on Iron Man's anti-Dark Flash armor's arm opened, and a strategic device within activated, instantly blasting a massive cloud of white mist forward, instantly enveloping Black Kitten. This was a dense cloud of tear gas. The mist not only enveloped Black Kitten but also quickly spread across much of the ruins of Jotunheim, obscuring the view of Task Force X 100 meters away. Within the tear gas, the triadic Nian, unfazed, not only didn't close its mouth and nose, but instead purposely opened its bloody maw. The black hole within its mouth immediately generated a powerful suction force, absorbing all the surrounding tear gas. It seemed to last only 2 or 3 seconds before the tear gas was about to be consumed. Above the battle, 20 meters in the air, Iron Man, about to be exposed from the gas, suddenly raised his palms downward in a signature strike, and the engine lights on the armor's palms lit up. But this time, instead of the usual piercing white laser beams, they unleashed a continuous stream of ice blue laser light and a spray of an unknown gas. Crash! As the ice blue laser and the unknown gas struck Nian, the surrounding air plummeted to below 0 degrees Celsius, condensing into a layer of frost on his dark skin and the ground beside him. Laser cooling and highly concentrated liquid nitrogen. Under these two extremely powerful refrigeration methods, the Black Kitten was quickly frozen into an ice sculpture, freezing the ground within a 5-meter radius as well. Iron Man, seemingly uneasy, didn't stop until all his refrigeration tools were exhausted and a 10-meter radius was frozen into a layer of ice. 0-degree freezing. This was one of the main attack methods the anti-Black Flash armor had modified to deal with small, yet highly powerful, supernatural beings, abandoning conventional lasers. Chapter 98, Put Tears on the Public Screen. Did it work? Looking down at the Black Kitten, frozen to the earth, the Iron Man suit's engines braked as it hovered in the air. The inner Tony Stark breathed a sigh of relief, but then his pupils narrowed. Crack! The thick layer of ice covering the Black Kitten's body suddenly burst open with deep, interwoven cracks, and then the surrounding ice crackled, and a black beast within it leaped violently into the sky. Come again. Tony Stark gritted his teeth, raised his right hand, and unleashed another massive burst of gas. The next moment, he was hurled backwards by the Tri-in-One Nian. The powerful impact and inertia sent Iron Man plummeting at an incredible speed, plummeting diagonally towards a city area behind him. In mid-air, Iron Man instinctively raised his left arm, and a strategic device emerged from his wrist, suddenly blasting a beam of high-temperature flame forward. The flames ignited the dense gas in the air ahead, and suddenly, An even more terrifying ball of flames washed over the black kitten. Since cooling was useless, then the high temperature would burn it. Bang! The 4 remaining members of Task Force X stood silently as they watched Iron Man crash onto the hard road nearby, sending sparks flying. Iron Man, his body covered in battle scars, climbed to his feet. He glanced at the Task Force X members nearby, then restarted his armored engine and flew back toward the battlefield. Above the ruins of Jotunheim, the flames continued to blaze, like a giant fireball, from which a molten figure fell to the ground. Iron Man soared 50 meters above the battlefield and looked down. He could see the black kitten's body. The dark layer of its skin seemed to melt, and a dark, stringy slime flowed down. This time, did the attack really work? Tony Stark muttered to himself, but a strange sense of foreboding filled his heart. On the ground, the Trinity's eyes suddenly widened, turning a pale, emotionless white. The dark symbiote slime on his body seemed to boil, like a blazing black flame. Due to excessive use of the Trinity's extraordinary abilities, his barely maintained humanity finally crossed the line, entering a dark, bottomless abyss. A dark, sinister aura rose from him, condensing into a physical form. A normal symbiote would have been severely injured by the intense flames. However, the symbiote version of Nian was unaffected by the symbiote's weaknesses, such as flames and ultrasound. Of course, the dormant symbiote venom within him must have been injured even while lying down. The Trinity couldn't maintain its state for much longer, but at this moment, it revealed its true form, now out of control. There was no need to restrain either one's heart or strength, but to indulge with even greater recklessness. Like a black kitten, a villainous villain, it looked up, its white, hollow eyes fixed on Iron Man in the air. The black slime that burned and melted from his body, falling to the ground, suddenly transformed into terrifyingly sharp dark tentacles, piercing the air at high speed and shooting towards Iron Man, who was suspended in midair. Iron Man was startled by this. At full engine power, the anti-dark flash armor flashed like a streak of white lightning, quickly dodging the first 3 or 4 dark tentacles. But the tentacles that followed, numbering well over 24, branched off in the middle, increasing exponentially. Tens of thousands of tentacles. Iron Man had tried to dodge quickly, but seeing this despairing scene, he could only fly forward at full speed, away from the tentacles. However, they caught up with him 100 meters in the air, and the anti-dark flash armor was tightly entangled by the dark tentacles. "It's broken," Tony Stark muttered helplessly, and then, along with the anti-dark flash armor, he was pulled down. Boom! Pulled by the 3-in-1 Nian tentacles, Iron Man plummeted from 100 meters into the rubble of the research institute, sending a shower of rubble and scrap metal everywhere. A cloud of dust descended. Iron Man lay half buried in the rubble, his anti-dark flash armor scratched and cracked. A corner of his iron mask shattered, revealing Stark's bearded face. "Did I lose again?" Stark muttered to himself, the energy grid in his chest and the light in his eyes dimming. Then, the voice of the artificial intelligence Jarvis rang rapidly in his ear. "Don't give up, sir." "Of course not. I'm Iron Man. How can I just fall here like this?" Stark's eyes brightened, and with a final, rekindled fighting spirit, he shouted in a deep voice, "Jarvis, activate backup unit 2. As he spoke, in the island nation of Kodamidis, tens of thousands of meters above Earth, in outer space, a small satellite bearing the Stark Industries logo hovered quietly. At that moment, 2 rectangular steel objects with a golden-red background detached from the small satellite. One in front of the other, each equipped with an engine at its tail, they plummeted downward at high speed. Rapidly passing through the atmosphere, they possessed precise positioning capabilities. One of the rectangular steel objects began to disintegrate mid-air, continuing its descent at an accelerating speed. Clang! One of the fragments, shaped like a pillar, landed in front of the out-of-control Trinity's Nian, piercing the ground over half a meter deep, blocking his path. Simultaneously, several more pillars plunged into the ground beside him, surrounding the black kitten-like Nian. Finally, a thick steel shield closed, automatically fusing with the underlying pillars to lock him in place. As for the other rectangular steel object, it charged directly towards Iron Man in the ruins. Puff! The black kitten's dark claws pierced the shield, its immense force forcing a massive hole in both directions as it burst forth. With the shield providing a delay, Iron Man, fully revived, rose to his feet above the ruins. Furthermore, it had been modified into a different armored form, 2 or 3 meters tall, imposing and sturdy, painted a golden red base. The Hulkbuster armor, its first appearance. Donning the Hulkbuster, Tony Stark strode forward, his movements slow and heavy, yet powerful. He swung his massive steel fist at the Black Kitten in front of him. To the 3-in-1 Nian, this seemed too slow, easily dodging from various angles. However, out of control, he wouldn't listen. Nian grinned sinisterly, raised his own dark cat claw, and then delivered a punch. Fist to fist. When the Hulkbuster's steel fist and Nian's inflated, strength and dark fist collided, like a high-explosive grenade detonating on the spot, the surrounding air crackled, and a massive shockwave and blast of air swept outward. Tony Stark's eyes widened in shock, but the Hulkbuster he was controlling couldn't help but take a step back under the incredible force of the fist. Even the Hulkbuster, in a melee with the most powerful force, still lost a little. You know, the Hulkbuster is a heavyweight armor built to withstand the Hulk. Before Tony Stark could react, the Black Kitten pounced on the Hulkbuster, opening its jaws and biting wildly, shattering countless layers of armor. Inch by inch, the pristine steel shell was shattered by its sharp teeth, and the pieces were swallowed into the black hole in the Black Kitten's throat. Toys, just toys. Iron Man was completely overwhelmed, his mind exploding. 2 anti-armor strategic weapons had been destroyed in a row, and at that moment, Stark began to doubt science. Chapter 99 Teleport, I'm home. Amidst the ruins of Jotunheim, a terrifying scene unfolded. Crunch, crunch. The distinct sound of swallowing echoed, and a terrifying scene unfolded. In mere seconds, Iron Man's brand new, massive Hulkbuster armor was completely gnawed by the mysterious Black Kitten, leaving the thick, gold and red armor cratered and pitted. An uninformed observer might mistake the Hulkbuster for paper. The Black Kitten continued to gnaw, and the Hulkbuster was nearly half destroyed, rendering it incapable of sustained combat. However difficult it was to accept, the harsh reality of defeat was stark before him. The Hulkbuster's interior flashed a red warning light. Tony Stark gritted his teeth and was forced to issue a final command. Suddenly, the Hulkbuster's back split apart, and a battle-worn, platinum-colored Iron Man flew out of the armored pod. All his engines revved to full power, and he transformed into a streak of white light, slanting towards the horizon beyond the island nation. But Iron Man, now clad in his anti-black flash armor, looked far more disheveled than when he first arrived. Plumes of black smoke billowed from his body, and his armor was so damaged that a human figure could be seen, unable to conceal Tony Stark within. The godlike Iron Man was now fleeing in defeat. 100 meters away, the remaining 4 members of Task Force X witnessed the entire scene, momentarily unable to believe their eyes. The powerful and legendary Iron Man suffered 2 horrific defeats, enough to make the mysterious Black Kitten a legendary legend. On the field, Nian, in his 3-in-1 Black Kitten form, regained a glimmer of life in his hollow white eyes as he watched Iron Man disappear into the clouds, making no attempt to intercept him with his tentacles. He should have been deeply grateful. Nian, venting the suppressed darkness and evil within his 2 anti-series iron armors, allowed his humanity to steadily return to normal state. It had been nearly 12 hours since he left, and the duration of his 3-in-1 form was almost up. We must leave this place quickly, or find a secluded place where the little emperor can take another bite, regain his strength, and return to Washington. But before that, there's one more thing to do. With this thought, Nian opened his mouth wide and devoured the last remaining Hulkbuster. Then, with an afterimage, he leaped forward at breakneck speed and, in the next moment, arrived 100 meters away in front of the remaining members of Task Force X. Chew, Boss Cat. Shark King Nunari's eyes widened in surprise. Harley Quinn was even more delighted, unable to resist stepping forward, wanting to embrace him again. Captain Robert and the second-generation Mauser, who were more normal, were extremely nervous. They feared the Black Kitten would attack them again, but even with this concern, they dared not raise their guns and show any hostility. After all, it would be meaningless. At most, they would die with dignity. The moment the Black Kitten appeared before everyone, it suddenly raised its dark right paw. 5 dark tentacles emerged from its claws, piercing the bodies of Harley Quinn, Cleo Cazo, Captain Robert, King Shark Nunavie, and the black-haired rat. Just as Captain Robert thought he was dead, he discovered that the tentacles had not pierced their bodies, but had painlessly merged into their flesh. Quickly, a small device emerged from its body. It looked like the miniature bomb that had been embedded in the bodies of the X-Force members. The moment the miniature bomb left the body, It triggered a system programmed to explode immediately. However, the dark, viscous fluid on the tentacle reacted quickly, enveloping the miniature bomb. The bomb, which could have shattered a human body, only caused the enveloping dark fluid to swell slightly. As if extinguishing a few small flames on the tentacles, the black kitten quickly retracted the 5 tentacles. That was it. At that moment, the members of X-Force understood the meaning of Nian's actions. Of course, helping 4 serious criminals regain their freedom wasn't Nian's original intention, but rather the sinister nature of the Trinity. Time is almost up. At that moment, Nian, the Trinity, suddenly felt an inexplicable feeling, as if he could easily escape into this void. And just as Harley enthusiastically rushed over, extending her hands to him, the black kitten's body transformed from solid to intangible, vanishing into thin air. Gurgle. Darkness enveloped Nian, and he felt as if he were falling into the ocean. Strangely, the water was warm. And just then, time had run out. Nian, the young meta-devouring beast, and the symbiote dormant within the young meta-devouring beast, 2 of the 3 entities, Nian and the young meta-devouring beast, restored their original forms and separated. With a single, loud splash. Restored to his human form and wearing the same long-sleeved pajamas he'd worn this morning, Nian's body pushed the warm water from the space he was in, quickly reaching the smooth barrier of his own space. Still dazed, Nian lay in the swollen bathtub, his gaze met the familiar ceiling of his own bathroom. Just a moment earlier, he'd been on Kodamadis Island, and now he was back in his own bathtub. Instantaneous teleportation. Was this one of the devouring beast's abilities? Before Nian could ponder it, he heard the sound of the shower nearby, and instinctively glanced over. In the steamy room beside the bathtub, 2 figures, one large and one small, lay. One mature and graceful, the other a youthful, fair complexion. Long black and crimson hair cascaded like distinct waterfalls. A white-collar uniform, a small dress, a coverlet, a vest, and other clothing lay beside him. A dark-haired woman, resembling a wife, stood in full view, washing the hair of a red-haired girl, who sat docilely on a stool. The shower had sprayed water over the woman's graceful, white back, flowing down her flawless, perfectly proportioned figure. Many glistening water droplets landed on the red-haired girl's delicate, white figure, bouncing adorably on her baby white skin. Seeing Nian appear out of nowhere in the bathtub, Diana was only slightly surprised, remaining as calm and composed as ever, displaying her immense maturity. "Miss Diana, what was that sound just now?" Wanda, her eyes closed due to the bubbles on her head, whispered curiously. "Someone's back," Diana replied matter-of-factly. "What?" Wanda tilted her head, then heard a familiar cat meow from the side. "Is the little emperor back?" Wanda's adorable eyes widened. Then, she saw the black-haired boy sprawled out in the bathtub, soaking wet, cradling a small orange cat in his arms. He caught Wanda's eye. Nian forced himself to remain calm, waved his hand, and greeted, "I'm back." "Hey." The girl was stunned for a moment, then let out the loudest scream she had ever made. Chapter 100 End, The Eternal God. It was still night in Washington, D.C., at home. Nian sat in a chair, watching Wanda bring out the Italian fried noodles from the kitchen with envy, feeling a surge of emotion. Surely she was a maid who had begun her professional butler training? Even after what had just happened, she not only didn't take her master to the police station, but even went to the kitchen to make him a midnight snack while he showered and changed into clean clothes. Although the triad had eaten a lot over the course of half a day, most of it had been consumed by the devouring dimension. Nian's original form was truly starving. Seeing Wanda gently placing the fried noodles on the table in front of her, she said apologetically, "Wanda, just now in the bathroom." The red-haired girl blushed immediately, and quickly interrupted, "Don't mention it again." "Master, you're such a scoundrel." The crimson maid Wanda angrily uttered, moving towards Diana's sofa in the living room. Nian cast a pleading glance at Diana's aunt. Diana seemed oblivious to this, sitting quietly and elegantly on the sofa, continuing to flip through the documents in her hand. It was as if her silent actions were a veiled refusal that all this was Nian's fault. He was simultaneously being ignored by both women in the family. Nian sighed, picked up his fork, doused it with beef sauce, and wolfed down his steaming hot spaghetti. Seeing Nian eating so eagerly, he guessed he might not have eaten much while out. Little Wanda, pretending to watch TV, couldn't help but glance up at Nian, then quickly averted her gaze. Diana, absorbed in her reading, seemed genuinely unfazed. However, her thin, sharp eyebrows, seemingly drawn like swords, had furrowed slightly. He was only halfway through his pasta when Nian suddenly muttered, "Has the temperature dropped again? It's been a bit chilly at night lately. If only someone could warm the bed," he muttered, almost explicitly, rather than hinting. But the two people, one large and one small, sat on the sofa in the living room, seemingly oblivious to what he was saying. One read, the other continued watching TV, neither paying any attention to Nian's words. Nian bored himself and buried his head completely, continuing to eat noodles with his knife and fork. It was late on Sunday night. All the lights in the living room outside were turned off, letting the night flow quietly. In the single room in the middle, Nian sat on the bed, looking at the closed door of the room. Well, no movement. It went on like this for about 10 minutes. "Are you really not coming?" Nian closed his eyes and lay down on the bed tiredly. After a while, he quickly sat up from the bed. "Since you are not coming, then why don't I go over there?" Nian blinked, immediately picked up the sleeping little Wang next to him with one hand, picked up the pillow on his bed with the other hand, put on his slippers and walked to the door of the room. The living room was pitch black. In order not to disturb Wanda in the next room, Nian walked on tiptoe, feeling the wall to reach Aunt Diana's door. Nian's eyes lit up slightly. But Aunt Diana's door was ajar, leaving a gap through which the dim, warm light of a desk lamp spilled. Just as the door to the first room closed, the door to the third single room quietly opened. A doll-like, red-haired girl, clutching a small pillow, her petite frame clad in white, long-sleeved winter pajamas, carefully treaded in woolen shoes as she entered the dark living room. She made no sound and reached for Nian's door. Wanda took a deep breath, as if to encourage herself, a determined look in her eyes, and then gently reached out to open the door. Entering the room, Wanda was suddenly stunned. It was the middle room, pitch black and deserted. Where was the young man on the bed? In the first room, Nian entered, clutching the cat and pillow, and saw Aunt Diana leaning against the headboard, her long, lush, shiny black hair cascading freely over her right shoulder like a waterfall. Her mature figure was wrapped in a thin, long-sleeved white dress. The dim glow from the lamp on the bedside table cast a shimmering edge on her exquisitely perfect profile and her graceful, sculpted figure. "You're here." Diana put down her book, her gentle gaze resting on the young man. "Auntie, my room is too cold," Nian said casually with a wink. "Come quickly, it's warmed up," Diana said calmly, gently patting the covers beside her. She took off her slippers. Nian immediately climbed up, cat and pillow in hand, slightly lifting a corner of the duvet and burrowing into the bed next to his auntie. The quilt, warmed by the demigod's body, was naturally the perfect temperature for comfort, and carried a distinct violet fragrance that made Nian want to close his eyes and sleep. Wait? Nian quickly realized that his desire to spend time with his auntie tonight wasn't just to warm the bed, but to resolve a serious matter. "Auntie, listen to me." Nian, regaining his composure, began to speak to his auntie. The entire story unfolded, from the moment the young metamorphosis beast, Zio Wang, issued his request this morning to the discovery of the alien entity, Starro. This included details like the venom mark left on Harley Quinn, the accidental blow to Iron Man, and the liberation of 4 heavily incarcerated prisoners from Dream Prison. "So that's how it is." Diana's beautiful eyes gleamed with wisdom. She listened attentively to Nian's account, understanding everything that had happened while also examining and correcting any flaws in Nian's actions today. "You still need to wear one of the protective silver bracelets. Otherwise, I won't be able to sense your location in time." Diana extended her hand, revealing a protective silver bracelet. Due to the recent Amazon war, Nian had returned a bracelet to Diana. After all, the bracelet's true power only came when a complete pair was in hand. Seeing his Aunt Diana's earnest expression, Nian didn't refuse and placed a bracelet back on his hand. Diana pondered, "As for Iron Man Tony Stark, he's a wealthy man like Batman. It's just 2 of his armors that are damaged, so he shouldn't be in trouble. However, you'll need to be more cautious with your Trinity identity going forward. Not only will you be targeted by superheroes like Iron Man, but your temperament and state will be extremely unstable when you're in Trinity." Nian nodded solemnly. This Trinity was far more dangerous than the first. It was thanks to Iron Man, his tool, that he showed up in time to help him vent his uncontrolled negative emotions. Diana continued, "As for those 4 serious criminals, I've got it in mind. I'll have Batman keep a close eye on them. If they don't cause trouble, there's no need to bother with them for now. Otherwise, I'll send them to prison again." "That's good." Nian breathed a sigh of relief, then suddenly remembered something very important. He reached out and petted the little orange cat lying beside his right hand. Without hesitation, he said, "Little Emperor, release one of Starrow's clones. My aunt and I need to talk to it." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.